A crossover is
crossover dribble.
Sing for the crossover.
Kyrie Irving, crossover in the lane. One of the most famous crossovers of all time. Behind the back, an ankle breaker on Chris Paul.
Crossovers.
The crossover continues to evolve.
Time for the crossover.
Yeah, set me up, man. I'm flustered. I am flustered. Holy cow.
Hold on. It's not your turn to speak.
Come on. Okay, that's what you're worried about.
By Everlevel Concrete Repair in Omaha and everlevelconcrete.com. Do you want us to Ernie Chambers it?
Yeah, that'd be good. That'd be good. Here I was worried that I had to speak and I wasn't going to be ready to, and instead I'm speaking and I shouldn't be speaking.
I am wearing pajamas.
Man, I'll tell you what. Exactly 1 hour on the nose from NRG Lincoln to NRG Omaha. Exactly 1 hour on the nose. If you're ever wondering, 44th and O to 50th and Dodge.
So, we won't bore these guys with great broadcast house stories.
Oh,
you're right now. I was a OG.
I know. I'm aware.
But I know this. You have a problem with Omaha traffic. You do not like Omaha traffic.
I mean, it's just. I don't want to get myself in the bad graces of the audience.
It's okay.
Right off.
We complain about it on Omaha traffic all the time.
I just hear so much about it. I get here and I hear people, Omahans complaining about Lincoln, and I'm like, well, I'm going to the promised land, you know. This is gonna be like a hot knife through butter situation. And I get here and it's like, where is this thing I was promised? Where is this? I haven't found it yet.
Well, we have streetlights up right now, so there is that.
And then I turned through the neighborhood to come over here, and you got a tree limb in the middle of the street still. What are we doing here? We got people without power here still.
Yeah,
I mean, we got all that done and over the weekend in Lincoln.
Well, welcome to Swimtown. You left Crime Town to get to Swimtown.
That's true. Right? You gotta portion the budget somewhere, right?
Yeah.
Right. Exactly.
So that's true. That tree is still down. I know the one you're talking about, just over.
Right. There was one back. Yeah, back here.
Yeah.
They had trucks in the road, and so I had to go over.
Well, we had a little incident here last week.
Yeah, I heard.
Yeah, you guys got hit in Lincoln.
I got hit. I lost a fence. Well, I think it's technically my neighbor's fence, so that's good. But I lost a portion of the fence.
That bill, that's good.
All of a sudden, I accrue half the benefits of it, but it's definitely 100% owned by him. I got the trees between my sidewalk and my street, which are technically city street trees. Yeah. They had a bunch of limbs down. They got limbs that are still hanging down. And my wife was like this week, and she was like, "You're gonna cut some of those limbs down?" And I was like, "That's the city's tree, you know. I can't be touching their tree, right? I need to just hang out and cool it because we pay our taxpayer dollars for that tree to get, fixed up by the city."
So if your neighbor asks you to go and halvesies on the repairing of the fence, are you in or out?
Oh, that sounds like a law school question that I dealt with about 20 some years ago, to be honest.
Isn't that like the courteous thing to do if you do benefit from the fence, and you would not be happy if they didn't replace the fence? They come over and they say, "Hey, since we both benefit, are you interested in going?"
I think I'd just bluff. I'd be like, "Well, leave it down then. Leave it down, man,"
because they're not going to.
Did you pass the collection plate around this weekend, Nick? Is that what happened?
Not yet, but I'm thinking about it because the other people, I think they would say go ahead because they don't have a fence on their other side. So I think that they would say, yeah, you can leave it down then. So I think they would call me on my bluff.
Yeah.
And they know we have a dog, and so they know we're not going to let the dog run and free through 2 other yards.
I'm the one but we're only fenced on one side.
Yeah.
So I'm on a corner lot. We got one side fenced, the other 2 are not. And we have a dog, so we always have him on a leash. Yeah. So I mean, I'm willing to bite the bullet if he calls me on my bluff. Right? We'll check it out.
I think it's exactly that. It's a bluff.
I'm willing to bite the bullet on this whole thing.
Just say, I'm good.
I think Jack could represent you.
That's all right. Yeah. I mean, I'm an inactive member of the bar, but I think for a small fee we can make that active.
I mean, really, just need legal advice, something maybe strongly worded.
I have not filed my name in a case for over 20 years. No, not quite 20 now. About 18
Nothing's
years.
Changed.
So, not much has changed. No. I mean, my passage of the bar is still valid as far as I know in the state of Nebraska. I'm still paying a pretty decent amount of money every year to not be an active lawyer in Nebraska.
You haven't been disbarred?
I haven't been disbarred. I got a little card I carry around to impress people at cocktail parties. Ooh. Like, hey, you went to law school to be a radio guy, huh? Like, yep, there it is. There it is. I still pay for it every single day.
That's what most people do. That's our career path.
Yeah. Now, speaking of law school, I bring this up every time I'm around Gary, but 23 years ago today, I know what I was doing. I was getting ready for my first year of law school, just moved into my apartment with my roommate there, getting all ready, getting nervous about that whole thing. And I'm turning on my radio in Lincoln, Nebraska in 2001. And every night I'm listening to Gary Sharp play Thunderstruck.
Oh, yeah, an
AC/DC.
intro song.
No, it wasn't an intro song.
No,
Gary was.
I didn't know that he would be.
It was a game.
Loading up the hype train every night in August 2001 for Thunder Collins, and he sent me into a tizzy about this man. Yeah, it was appointment radio because I'm gonna hear Gary hype Thunder Collins for an entire fall camp, which he did.
Yep. And then I blamed Solich, who did not play him, and then I blamed Thunder for not actually playing the position.
Right.
And now,
I mean,
did you ever think at that moment that you could represent him?
No, I
probably didn't cross your mind at the time.
But I thought that was more likely than doing a show with him like we are right now, to be honest.
So George Darlington got me the most hyped about him. He said, wait till you see this kid.
He must have told you something.
And I was like, really? Because I trusted, George had a good run of getting guys out of Southern California, including the greatest running back ever in the history of Nebraska. And I was like, okay, he never said Thunder is the next LP on the field. He did say that Thunder is really, really good and will be,
Yeah.
And so I was like, really? And so I started to watch more film and I'm like, oh my God, this guy is going to be the real deal. So I got all excited. And then it was such a letdown because then I interviewed Thunder and it was all over the map. And I'm like, this may not work out. But I was hoping. And then he had that big game against Baylor. Yep. He was one of 4 guys to run for over 100 yards.
Yep.
And I'm like, we're back. But then the next week I'm doing the sidelines and Thunder leaves the sidelines. And I'm like, and all I can hear is, hey, go figure out what's wrong with him. Well, he had to go to the bathroom. But he wanted to make sure that everybody knew that he was leaving the sidelines. And then he made this big, huge return. And we're like, here comes Thunder. And at that point, Jack, I was done.
Yeah,
I was like, I was done.
But we always have those weeks in August 2001. I mean, the Dylan Raiola hype looks mild compared to the frenzy Gary Sharp was whipping people into in 2001. He had an opening segment of the show that was just playing Thunderstruck and just like talking suggestively about what a great player he was going to be every night for an entire summer camp.
Where I was wrong, but I will be right on 15.
So it was a dedicated moment of the show every night for Thunder Collins.
Now, maybe 23 years have passed. I may have exaggerated some things in my head, Gary.
That's okay.
But this is how I remember it. I remember at the East Campus Rec, driving over to the East Campus Rec to get in some pickup basketball with the dental students and the ag students. And I'll tell you which group of those were better between law students, dental students, and ag students. And every night I timed it so I could hear the beginning of Gary hyping me about Thunder Collins.
On that, dental students by far. No law student or ag student has ever beat up a Nebraska football player.
A kicker, but still it counts. It does count.
The ag guys are all the ones who are playing basketball, at least, are all like 5'11", 230, right? Yeah. Just all muscle.
Former athletes.
Right? So I mean I guess they're not really shooters, good in the paint, that type of situation. But yeah, the rest of them are all over the place. So yeah, those were the days back in 2001 getting hot, but I don't feel like we have the hype train quite revved up as much as it needs to be.
But I think because we've seen him.
The internet has changed that?
A little bit.
Okay.
And also we got to see him in the spring.
Yeah.
And people went, he's different.
Mm-hmm.
He looks different. I mean, he is different. It's he's the best pure passer at Nebraska probably in 20 years.
And nothing Saturday night detracted from that, it sounds like, from what we've heard from people who have been there?
Nope.
No. In fact, I think it was very consistent with what we saw spring, what we've seen in the clips that we've seen with the chasing 3 as well. I was telling Gary earlier, it's a very effortless presence about him where it's almost like, is he just kind of holding back? But I mean, just still throwing dimes, but it just looks so effortless.
Do you guys get the sense, you mentioned the chasing 3, that the university has, or the athletic department, or whatever they're putting out there, like they have held back from really fanning the flames on this thing? Yes. I mean,
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I think so.
yeah.
like they have. It's been a conscious effort. It
Mhm.
feels like to
Yeah.
me.
Well, okay, so yes, and I think that is not only by design, but because the guy that would be hyped would be very uncomfortable with that
Mhm.
because he just wants to be one of the guys on the roster. And I say that, and I truly believe that he doesn't want to be different. He doesn't want to be treated different.
Yeah.
He knows that he's different, and Heinrich Harburg isn't going to the College World Series and getting the attention that Dylan Raiola is,
Right.
or going to a basketball
Right.
game. Now, maybe, and people recognize Harburg, but he doesn't want to be treated differently. So I think Nebraska, the staff, which has gotten to know him, they're like, okay, we're going to treat him as a member of the Nebraska
Yeah.
football team, knowing that if you ask the head coach, his tone and that twinkle in his eye changes a little bit. And he wants so badly to go there. Like he almost did it in Indianapolis, and then he caught himself. But I think he's just going to let you can watch for yourself.
Yeah.
I don't need to
Right.
say anything.
Right, like I'm watching these documentaries that they're putting out of the spring ball, and I keep thinking, oh, they're gonna do a little story on him, right?
Yeah.
There's gonna be a little side. I mean, we got Ramir Johnson, right? We got Tommy Hill, right?
Mhm.
We got Barney, right? We got all these guys, even freshmen who are coming in, and I'm waiting for the side story on him, and it never happens.
Yeah.
And it's not gonna happen
Well, and even when
by design.
he spoke on Friday and was asked, one of the first questions he was asked about the whole Tyreek Hill, Patrick Mahomes tweet about him resembling Patrick Mahomes, and he kind of laughed a little bit, but immediately shut it down again of, oh yeah, I'm not worried about that
I thought
stuff.
his answer was good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He acknowledged it a little bit, but after that he shut it down, and it was very businesslike. And it's very consistent to when you hear Glenn Thomas talk about him, when you hear Marcus Satterfield, when you hear Matt Rule. If it's a direct question about Dylan Raiola, the answer is met with, yeah, here's what he does. Here's what Heinrich does too. Here's what Danny does too. Here's what Jalen does too. So they're all brought up even if it's a specific question about an individual, it all comes back to the entire quarterback room. Every one of them, even the quarterbacks being asked about one another, they bring it back to the entire quarterback room. So yeah, they're all aligned in that.
So to bring it full circle, when do I let 2001 Jack come out? Who wasn't afraid to have some shock jock radio host pump him up?
Wow.
Pump him up.
He did have Thunderstruck.
But you sound like Steve Peterson.
who wasn't afraid to let my mind imagine the greatness, because here in 2024 Nebraska, and I'm not the only one, whether it's about Dylan himself, whether it's about the season, I'm just not. I built up emotional walls everywhere.
It's
Gary.
okay to go there because there are football people that I think are pretty hard to please that are around this program every day that are like, he's different.
All right.
So there you go.
There it is. You heard it. Start playing Thunderstruck.
Well, I don't even know. What would be a song
Yeah,
for
what would
Dylan?
we call Dylan?
I don't know.
When we got some Hawaiian music?
Maybe. I don't know. I got no idea, but we need the Dylan hype song now. We need the Dylan hype song.
Well,
the branding was exquisite in 2001.
Where are the Killigans?
Oh God. I don't know if I could handle that every day. That would be rough.
Maybe we need a fan created song. That almost
those are always amazing.
Always works. You know?
By 2:00, you'll have one. Guaranteed. Look in your inbox.
Right. I know
Someone
you
will
guys
put
are
one
like
together.
me. Every once in a while, every football season or two, you'll get a little one of those padded envelopes in your box. And sure enough, depending on what year you got it, it was a cassette or a CD. You know what I'm talking about. You guys have always, I've gotten them. You've gotten them
I used
too.
to get them all the time.
You
too.
used to get them all the
Oh,
time too. And some listener has made a song.
Yeah.
They're like, you might want to play this on the
you guys
air.
want to play this on your show?
Play this on
It's
the air.
really
Do you know
good.
anybody at the university?
Yes.
Yes,
It's
you know,
passes
both
on
of those
to?
things. Yeah.
Like there are a bunch of, I probably have had 5 to 10 of those that I've buried over the years and are, could have been hits.
I got to
You
admit,
never know.
I would take those and I would play them for friends when we would be around drinking and say, all right, what do you think of this one? And everybody, so it was for our amusement. I'm not going to name who and what, but yeah, we had some fun with it.
You bring up a good point, though. I'm surprised there hasn't been one because remember when Buki? We had 2 different songs that were sent to us about Buki. Buki never played here.
Yeah.
But
That's true.
Buki had songs.
Had produced
The guy
songs.
that is here and actually has gone through spring and is going to be QB1 doesn't have a song.
That's a good point.
Mhm.
What happened what happened to the songs? What happened to the fan created songs? Has even that joy been robbed of this fan base?
Where they're in no mood
There's
for it.
no terrible fan created songs about players anymore.
Maybe we are really back.
So where they're not actually making them. That's a good point. Yeah.
I don't know. I think that's a sign the other direction.
I
think you'll know they're back when they start coming out again.
What's Tyshawn Lindsey doing these days? He used to produce some hip hop music, even in his time in Nebraska. Remember, he was Chef Boyardee, and then he went to Oregon State. Is he?
This rings a bell.
Yeah. He was Chef Boyardee. Maybe he could come up with a banger for.
Well,
Dylan.
they had a stretch of wide receivers that would rather be DJs.
Yeah.
Remember McKewon from Columbia, Missouri, who was a pretty good wide receiver, but then he got injured.
Yeah.
He did miss a day of practice because he was trying to drop his latest record.
He was in the studio.
I've got an idea for a new NIL. I know we're looking at NIL fundraisers now, but what if we do kind of a Coachella type thing, but it's all former Huskers turned
musicians,
DJs,
entertainers.
Entertainers, right? It'd be great. Like it's Husker stock, right?
Coachella.
We'll go out to a field in Ashland where they're going to put the lake, right? And then
Big lake.
we go out into a field in Ashland. We get everybody there. We go, hey, it's Javion McQuitty. His set's going to last for about a half hour, right? We got we got a bunch of them. I'm telling you, you got to start thinking out of the box now that we're in the fundraising era that we're in.
Mm-hmm. That's
right?
true.
Right?
I feel like
Husker Coachella. Who else we got?
I think we're kind of limited here.
Are we?
There's
got to be some talent in
McQuitty
there.
and Tyshawn Lindsey are the only two I can think of in recent time. Now, there's probably ones that we don't even know of.
Yeah,
that
that's
we're
the
doing
thing.
stuff.
We're going to bring people out of the woodwork.
Yeah.
There's probably somebody on Broadway we don't even know about.
Yeah.
You know?
Could we technically claim Zach Miller because he was a safety before he went to UNO, and now he's doing country music now. So you could get Zach Miller. He's gone on to bigger and better things.
He might be on the side stage.
Yeah. He's out of the main stage.
Get the main.
Yeah.
He's over by the merch tables.
That's where the Mavs are.
He's giving you his demos. Yeah.
That guy talked to me for 5 minutes. Felt like a sale.
Everybody be there. Hottest event of the summer.
Yeah.
I'm telling you, literally and figuratively. I don't know. Let's look it up. Let's find it. We could have a separate stage for the fans. We could bring back some of the old, fan artists, fan songs.
Yes,
that we had. Do you remember I'll take you way back, Gary. You probably
Sawyer
remember. Sawyer Brown,
the Brooke Banger song.
Do you remember the Husker reggae song?
What?
There is no place like Nebraska. This is like 1987.
Oh
so
my
I'm
God.
going way back, like Gary and I kid. But
Wow.
87, that was a golden era for those songs.
It was.
Golden era. People have no idea.
Wait a minute. There was a reggae version
Yes.
of There Is No Place Like Nebraska?
Yes.
Oh, my God.
It got tons of radio play.
Can we get our hands on
So
that?
no, you would hear people in their cars would play it. They'd have it like in a cassette tape and put it in. They'd play it in their cars, like when they're driving down the road.
Yeah. There was no internet to promulgate this stuff. Only radio could have got it out there.
I really wanna
And they
hear this.
did in the late 80s. I remember in, probably 86, 87, they did a parody of the one of the radio stations did a parody of the Super Bowl Shuffle.
Yeah.
Right? They did the Big Red Shuffle.
okay.
I mean, I can even drop some bars from it out of memory. Right? Come the 21st of November, we'll give those Sooners a day to remember. When they come to Lincoln Town, the red and white will take them down. Now, this is not another wacky rap. I'm talking about the Big Red Attack with offense and defense slamming and jamming. It's a hill-raising tool of 87.
Wow. That's amazing.
Oh, yeah.
Let's see.
That was
Let's see.
amazing.
Our offensive line is young and strong with Taylor in the back, throwing it long with Brinson and Knox, Heibel and Jones, putting that ball in the end zone with offense and defense, slamming and jamming. It's a hill-raising tour of 87.
Wow.
No notes.
No, I can.
That's just incredible.
Off the dome.
That is what I'm going to die. No matter how
Wow.
much I forget in my life, it's a crap like that I'm still remember on my deathbed.
Why don't you put together one for 24?
Yep.
Maybe I should.
You could do the
Maybe
Dylan
we
song
need to
too.
drop a track, a hype track for 2024. It's sorely missing. I obviously have the rap chops to do it. Very clearly.
Well,
You just need a writer.
That was really good.
Right. I need a writer.
We could reveal it the Friday before the UTEP game.
Yeah.
You
Right.
could just use it on
maybe-
all outlets.
Maybe slip the disc over to your friends at Sweet 98 there. Right. Yeah. Maybe I know we're not supposed to do this in radio, but $1 on top of it there. Right.
Little plugola there.
We would
If
never.
it's in house, I'm not sure that it matters.
should be
you know?
fine.
People standing on corners with boom boxes playing it.
Yeah, you got to have that. That's the guerrilla marketing aspect.
I have an article from our friend Dave Fight. Top 10 Nebraska fan songs of all time.
Okay, let's see.
Do you want to go 10 to 1 or 1 to 10?
Yeah, what do we got? 10 to 1. I'll see how many I remember.
Okay, let me scroll back up to the top here. Number 10. Magic Man, Husker Roll Call Mix, Franklin Thompson.
Don't remember that.
Magic Man? Is that
The city
Is
council.
that T-Matt?
was
Hold
that a
on,
T Magic
Hold
thing?
on, time out. It may be the city councilman
Right.
who I have heard sing at an event. Okay. I don't recall that one.
All right.
Lion's Order, Husker Power, number 9.
Mm.
Not familiar.
No.
No,
Okay.
didn't get big on the charts.
No.
Forgive my ignorance on this. Chiffy, maybe Chiffy, the real Husker anthem, "Go Big Red," featuring Vino.
Oh,
Well, if it's got Vino, then
I think Vino is passed, by the way.
okay.
Oh,
well,
all right.
Sad. Okay.
all right.
Heidi Merrill, Cornhusker Strong, number 7.
I've never heard of any of these.
Yeah.
These are all the ones that I was getting mailed.
There
In my-
Yeah.
Maybe
We probably dismissed them.
I've perused this list. There are some that I know of.
Do they have links to the audio? on it?
I believe so.
Okay,
yes.
good.
Mikey Bowe,
Yes,
Nebraska.
I see
Thunder
that.
of
Cream
course.
Mix.
Dun, dun, dun.
That was a major.
Dun, dun, dun,
yep,
dun,
yep.
dun,
We
dun,
were
dun,
talking
dun.
a lot of Mikey Bowe about 15
Yeah.
years ago.
Yes, we were.
Yes.
Dun, 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 dun. Wasn't Bill Callahan's wife on the plane in the video too? And the guys jump off, they're jumping to Memorial Stadium. That was part of the tunnel
Yes.
walk video. And I
Yeah.
think it was Bill Callahan's wife. It's like, "Are you ready?" And they're like, "Ready." Like, what the hell?
This isn't in the proper top 10, but it did get a superlative for best Husker player rap song.
Ooh.
From Terrell Farley, Husker Hot Sauce.
Oh, the hot
Part
sauce
One,
song. Yes. With Tony
featuring
Frazier,
T.
yes.
Phrase.
If I could get those guys to do that live, that would be a headliner automatically
Yeah.
at the festival that I'm
That-
putting together.
that'd be
The
the-
1890
Husker
Husker
Coachella.
stock. Yes.
Back to the countdown. Number 5, RK Huskers from Tech 9.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Come
Red
on.
Kingdom.
Yeah, come on.
Number 4, Husker Reggae, Paul Phillips.
There it is. Okay, we got a name
Yeah.
now.
Okay.
The Husker Red. It is. No, all right, next.
Number 3, This is Nebraska, Big Red Anthem 2 from Brown.
Okay, that guy was a legit good rapper. I had him on my show when he was putting those songs out. I did a rap battle with him on my show. I won, obviously,
Well,
but
yeah.
yeah, he was good. He was. Those were pretty solid.
Number 2, Husker Fight from Buffington, featuring the Cornhusker Marching Band.
Okay, I think I vaguely remember that one.
And number 1, the Cornhusker, Come a Running Boys.
Uh-oh.
The
Oh,
Killigans.
God,
That's
yeah.
number 1, really?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, there's a divide.
Yeah.
There's a divide on that one. I'll admit it. But unpopular opinion. I'm a fan. I'm a
You
fan
are?
of that one.
Oh.
I am.
I'm not.
I am. But it wouldn't be. It was because I heard that song. I watched those NET Husker Century documentaries. I watched the crap out of those in the early 2000s, about when I was listening to Gary, and they had the choral version of that song in the background of all of those videos, and it just got locked in my head. Didn't hear the song again in my life for 20 years, 18 years, and then they released that, and I was like, that's that song from that thing. It's like the Leo DiCaprio thing. I was like, hey, that's that song. That's really cool. And I liked it, and then, you know, what like usually happens with things, there are a bunch of people who are, you know, way too cool for the things that I like. That typically happens, especially in this studio with people other than you guys. So, so yeah, that's what went down with that. So there you go.
I got number 1 though. I'm a bit surprised by that. Maybe Dave Fight has the same taste.
I think
though.
he does. It's kind of maybe a generational thing. I don't know.
I really want to. I want to hear this Husker reggae. No, it's just there's no place like Nebraska, but it's reggae.
Yes, that's what I recall.
Okay.
Yes.
I want this.
It was pretty popular.
I want to hear this.
And it was
Bring
like
it
10
back.
years later in like 95, 96, I made a resurgence.
Oh, did it?
Yes.
By my clock, it's time again.
Well, could we have a
Bring it
new edition?
Perhaps.
I feel like that would be a really good Friday before the opener show of all of those, good or bad.
Just getting people hyped.
Yeah, and then we unveil the one that has been created by Jack.
Yeah,
the new one.
See, I think you have to
Performed
do this.
live.
I think you have
Performed
to do this.
live.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
By the way, the Untold Connor Stallions trailer has just dropped.
Oh.
Oh,
Oh, is this the Netflix show?
Yeah. Okay. Before we I was very interested in Manziel's, very interested in the Swamp Kings. Those
They
two
all
did
sucked,
not. Yes,
right?
those two did not deliver. So
They did not take
I
the
got
deep
measured,
dive.
measured enthusiasm on this.
Just with the closed captioning that I was watching, he says that he was done wrong.
Oh,
Okay. So
By whom?
he's no longer the good foot soldier here. He's no longer
Yeah, that's
falling
what
on
I
the sword.
wonder.
Okay.
By whom is the question?
Yeah. By James? By Sharon
I just
Moore?
want to know I got on that Central Michigan sideline. That's it. That's all I want to know.
So
I
so
want
the
him to tell
Amazing
that
Daniel. You recognize that? The Coke album, the Big Red Country album?
Yes.
Yeah.
That I remember. Again, it was a flourishing cottage industry.
It was
back in the day that seems to have gone away. And we can point to all the things that have changed since the 90s, but there's one right in front of our face.
Oh, no.
Wow. Oh my gosh. I haven't heard this
We do a little bit of Husker
for almost
reggae.
30 years.
This song, by the way, is what kept me a one-hit wonder. It is no place like Nebraska, yeah, good old Nebraska. Yeah, girls are the fairest. Oh yeah, boys are the squares.
It comes to the yos, right?
Oh,
The yos.
yo. I said yo.
Physically, the performer is nothing what I imagined.
Yeah.
Back when I was young, we watched the TV.
Oh, yeah, no.
Show, yo.
I wouldn't have seen that either.
It's a white guy in
Yo,
cargo
T.O.,
shorts.
right? Yeah, heck yeah. The 25-year head coach Tom Osborne.
It's probably too problematic now. Oh man.
night before the Colorado game, big pep rally. Remember we said pep rallies in the stadium.
Oh yeah.
I mean, Tom Green. I think Tom Green ended the little pep rally thing.
Really?
Yeah.
MTV's Tom?
Did he get a little too?
He had
Just off the
simulated
hinges?
sex with Lil Red.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, that probably would do
I
it.
remember the DN headline the day afterwards.
I mean, that's
And Tom Green, by the way, was on top of the world for about 6 months there,
Yeah,
and that was
yeah.
right in it.
That was on the heels of Road Trip.
Yes.
okay. So
Oh,
they
yeah.
had the Unleash the Fury thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So now on NASCAR, Rick Allen, but Rick Schwiegert, who was a Husker athlete, was also the first, one of the, not the first, but he's the PA voice in
Right.
Memorial Stadium. He was emceeing it, and Tom Green got loose and had simulated sex with Little Red.
Well, if I remember Rick Schwiger's voice very well, that would have been
that
would have been very
perfect voice
fun.
for that.
Yes.
But you're right. The DN had like a
Yes.
yeah.
Last thought on that. I went. My dad took me 1986 before the Oklahoma Nebraska. No, it would have been 87. The second they had 2 home games in a year. So the game of the century 2, quote unquote. ASUN had a pep rally. Wasn't in the stadium. It was out by the Union. My dad took me there by the fountains, and Neil Smith unzips his jacket, and he's got a FOU shirt on, and the crowd goes berserk. And my 9-year-old mind is just what, and so that atmosphere, that feeling in that crowd right now, whenever anyone talks about the respectfulness of the Nebraska-Oklahoma rivalry, that was my first introduction to it. That was bloodlust, ladies and gentlemen. That was not a bunch of respectful people going into that game. And then the pain, and then the deep, deep pain that went along with those 2 86 and 87 games. So even the Husker reggae couldn't fix it. So
That thing's wow.
guys, thanks for the reminiscing. That was fun.
Yeah.
That was fun.
You gonna be able to last 4
appreciate it.
hours? That's a lot of energy.
I already did 3, man. I know.
Keep
I
it
already
going.
did 3, and well, Odson's going to keep me going here. I think it's like one of those
It's a lot of
Olympic
pressure to put on
triathletes
one
who
person.
just swam through the poop river. So
Ooh,
you know,
Look out for E. coli.
You just got to keep going.
for sure.
Yep.
All right, there you go. That is the crossover. I'm Jack Mitchell. I guess I didn't even introduce myself. Jack Mitchell. I'll be hosting for Connor today, and the crossover is powered by Everlevel Concrete Repair in Omaha at everlevelconcrete.com. We'll get into the show right after this. You're listening to 1620 The Zone.
It's the Connor Happer Show. Are we sure we want to do this?
Could you, make an announcement that we're ready?
It's the Connor Happer Show on 1620, The Zone.
Let's go. Another substitute teacher in the house today. I'm Jack Mitchell. Sister station, KLIN is my employer. Well, NRG Media is my employer, but I work over at Lincoln. You hear me on Mondays anyway with Josh and John and on Sportsmanlike Conduct. What I want to know, Josh, is do they cancel my appearance or today, or do we get to go straight from the entire 4-hour show for Connor to the crossover to one small break for me and then back on in my regular spot there?
I would imagine they'd let you take a bathroom break or something, maybe eat a Snickers
just
or
a
something.
Quick break and then right back on, fire any takes that were left over.
I just think it would be funnier that way if you were just exhausted Jack Mitchell doing your regular Monday guest spot.
That'd be
punch drunk Jack Mitchell.
That's what we've seen a lot of that over the years. Punch drunk Jack Mitchell. And I'm put by the way, real quick before I get into anything else. We are. What are the things people need to know, Josh, to get in touch with the show? I want to rely on the listeners. I want to hear from them today. What are the best ways for them to do that?
Well, you can call the show, text the show, same phone number, 402-951-1620. You can hop inside our YouTube stream. We got the chat open up for you there, 1620thezone.com or zonetv.live. How about that?
Nice. You guys got your own URL now?
We do. We're big time, I guess. Twitter, always a great source, at Happer Show, at producer_Josh. And then, of course, Jack, you're at Jack Mitchell LNK.
Yep. Hit me up on Twitter if you have a comment. I'll get it there. I've got the YouTube live chat in front of me, too. I want to hear from you guys on all of that. Real quick, the lineup.
One more.
Oh, yeah.
One more. I'm sorry. I almost forgot our dear friends at the Equitable Bank inbox. Equitable Bank. They take banking personally.
All right.
Email the show, Josh O at 1620thezone.com.
And you'll shoot those over to me or discuss them with me. On the show today during the 11 o'clock hour, Mike Schaefer will join us from Husker 24/7. I actually already did an interview with Mike 2 hours ago. So it was kind of a practice run type situation. In Olympic terms, it was the semifinal, right?
Before there was a heat.
Right. There was a heat, Mike Schaefer heat before we got to the real thing. And then we will have Sam McKewon joining us during the 1 o'clock hour today. So I believe that's all that we've got today. Of course, what you've come to expect with the odd news. We'll have what to watch. I've got a lot ready to go today. But we're going to start with a head check. We are going to start with a head check. And many people have told me multiple times, especially when we get close to football season, that I need a head check. But I mentioned this when we talked to Gary. And this is, I hope you guys aren't disappointed in me when I tell you this. Okay? I am the guy that very famously went on Unsportsmanlike Conduct before Scott Frost's trip to Ireland and predicted a 9-win season for Scott Frost. Spoiler, it didn't happen. Okay. I am the person that has pretty consistently argued with the detractors for positivity. And again, sometimes it was not well placed. I am the one that has pointed out the weaknesses of the enemy over the years, very frequently. I am the guy last year when someone would come up to me and say, well, Minnesota's a pretty good team. They might beat Nebraska in the first game, which they did. I would say to them, name Minnesota's quarterback. And very few of them dropped an Athan on me at that point. So all of that to say, guys, I'm having a hard time ginning it up this year. And not because I know it sounds crazy. It makes no sense. And it makes no sense to me either.
I thought we were going the exact opposite direction.
No, it makes no sense to me. But I think I have finally hit the spot that I know a bunch of you are in. I have built an emotional protection wall around myself. I have finally done it. I have built this thing, and it's become an involuntary thing for me. But this is my mind and my body teaming up together to prevent the maximal pain if and when that comes. And I will not, it's not even a conscious decision at this point. I'm not letting myself think. Gary says that stuff over there, right? He's telling me, I can tell Gary's talking to people, by the way. Gary's eyes are lighting up when he's talking about other people's eyes lighting up when he's talking about Dylan. Okay. It's not that I don't believe him. I believe him. But there's just something that triggers in me that says, not till I see it. I'm not doing it. And even though there is probably objectively a better case than there has been for a long time for optimism, generally, I think I'm finally where a lot of you have been before. And I know some of you are there too, because you're tired of the glowing reviews before games.
Off-season champs.
Off-season. I've seen it. And I've always rolled my eyes a little bit at that, Josh. But I think I'm there. I think I have completely reached show me time. And I'm not even going to allow myself to engage in the excitement and the speculation of positivity until I experience it again. And I hope that doesn't come off as being a downer. And the reason it's easier to do it is, hell, we're 4 weeks away? We're 4 weeks away. We're going to find out.
Less.
We're going to find out. I don't know if we're going to find out in week 1, but we're going to find out pretty quickly exactly what kind of a situation that we're dealing with. And I would say all of that said, primetime, Memorial Stadium on NBC, and Colorado. Speaking of a program that I've got no problem, even prior to Deion ginning up some strong feelings about. If that goes well that night, I realize that's not the whole season, but that's the switch that I need flipped. That's this, and then all bets are off. Unreasonable Jack Mitchell, overly optimistic Jack Mitchell annoying Josh and John from 2 to 6 will be back. Okay? And back with a vengeance like you have not seen me or maybe some of you before since, I don't know, 2001 when I was listening to Gary. I don't know. I don't even know. I don't even know what that part of me is going to be like anymore. I've lost contact with that version of me, with winning Jack Mitchell, drunk with winning fans, drunk with winning in all of us. What is that like? How there's a whole generation of us that don't know how we will behave if that scenario comes up.
That's right.
We don't know. All bets are off in terms of our behavior, in terms of our comments. And so I'm curious from all of you, have you put up the wall of emotional protection? Have you done it like have you taken steps to prevent yourself? Are you concerned about the temptation of optimism? Are you warding it off? Are you wearing a chastity belt against optimism? Figuratively. I wonder. I'm curious for all of you. Where are you at? Or are you letting yourself believe? Tony says, I've been feeling the same way, Jack. I've been hesitant about drinking the Rool-Aid, which has been hard. Max says, makes sense this year, Jack. You no longer have to carry the hype and positivity weight, right? And he also says he agrees that the Colorado game is going to be the switch. It will be for me. I don't hate to overhype a game. I like doing that.
That's the biz.
I'll tell you what, it's going to be big game mode. Like, I don't know what we felt. I don't know when the last game we felt that way is going into a game with all of the ingredients, the import for the program, the import for my own feelings, the national stage, the good versus evil vibe that I sort of have built up around it. I mean, we're going to get to the latest stories about Colorado. I don't know if we have a Pat Fitzgerald situation going on there or not. We're going to get to all of that. But
I mean, that's going to be the biggest home game since Miami,
Oregon.
Yeah.
Maybe. Feels bigger than both of those, though.
One of those USC games.
The USC game. 07, right?
Yeah.
Probably that. Probably feels similar to that. Don't look now, but that was 17 years ago. I got a 20-year-old son who was 3 years old. He doesn't remember that game. This is the biggest game of his lifetime. It is. It's the biggest game of his lifetime, and that's true of an entire generation. This is the biggest game of the lifetime. I hate to put too much on it because if they lose it, it's going to feel bad, and it is. And it's not that things can't be rescued, but man, I've described it a lot of ways. This thing goes... It's the road, the split in the path, the fork in the road. It's more like a T for this game. Okay, way one way or way the other way. Can't be. It's not that it can't be redeemed, but I'll tell you what, it's big, and I don't think I'm out of line in saying that it is way up there, and it's going to trigger exactly what kind of follower I am of this team this year. I'm curious what you think. Give us a call. Comment on the text line. Shoot me a tweet if you want to do that at Jack Mitchell LNK. We've got to grab a break right here. We are going to do that. More of your response coming up next. 10:49. I still got to give time checks because I do morning radio on talk radio. So it's 10:40. You're gonna find out what time it is all morning. Don't worry about your watches today, y'all. 10:49. Goes to 1620 The Zone. All right, welcome back. 1620 The Zone, the Connor Happer Show. I'm Jack Mitchell in for Daddy Happer. I saw he was still firing off tweets about the Jack Mitchell softball experience this morning, so I must not be too sleep deprived at this point.
This morning he was?
This morning.
It was a little late on that.
Yeah. Well, he was worried I was going to take the show over for, and I quote, propaganda. You know.
Oh, okay.
Propaganda. Listen, we don't need propaganda at this point. It was one of the greatest turnarounds in local sports this year. you get to your end of the year stories. We get to New Year's Eve, right? And they're going to be talking AP's top sports stories of the year in the state of Nebraska. You got to take a look at a team that gets no hit 30-0 in the opening game and ends up being the second to last team standing for the goods, for a championship. Fell a little short this time, but boy, a lot of young kids being inspired by what happened over there in Northeast Lincoln over the course of this softball season. No, I'm not going to go too far. I do, we do get going again with a fall season a week from Tuesday. So a week from tomorrow, that would be.
Quick turnaround, like I think college basketball to the WNBA.
Yeah, exactly. It's very, and we're going to have some new players are going to have to adjust. And this is as good a time as any for me to make a little bit of an announcement here. Regarding the Jack Mitchell softball experience. The team as constituted last year, outside of one player who moved after like the second game, will be coming back. So all of your favorites will be back.
Run it back.
Right? No, I'm giving you a little heads up for your fall fantasy softball drafts.
Okay.
But I've added a couple of players. A little bit of depth, right? A little bit of new blood here. And there are going to be some people who are questioning me for one of them in particular, but I'm going to stand by my decision. And I'm glad to announce that one of the new additions from free agency, making his softball debut, not only for the Jack Mitchell softball experience, but in life, will be none other than Nick Grimm. He will be joining the squad for the fall season.
I'd heard some rumblings of this.
It's been in the, you've been reading it on the blogs probably.
Yeah. Those like trade tracker Twitter accounts.
Yep. Nick Grimm, he tells me he has not played, I believe, any kind of softball or baseball maybe in his life.
That is correct from my understanding of it. Yes.
Maybe in his life. You guys see that and you hear, oh, what a terrible idea, Jack. You should have got me. I'm a ringer, right? I hit bombs in beer league. You should have got me. You know what I see? A great story. Maybe the greatest story.
I'm pretty sure Nick didn't know what baseball was until 18 months ago. Even better.
Who we making a movie out of? We making a movie out of the former high school player that hits about 7 home runs every summer, right? And wears softball pants. Are we making a movie out of us carrying Nick Grimm off the field this October as he leads us to our first championship? I know which one I'm making a movie out of.
I guess you got a point there.
So we'll add Nick. I believe we are going to use him in a exclusively designated hitter type situation to start.
Okay.
Right. To kind of work him into the swing of things, because he's, as far as any of us know, including him, we don't know where to put him defensively at this point. We got to kind of feel him out. We got to figure out what we're going to do.
What if he's a natural?
That's what these are the right questions, Josh. These are the questions a GM asks himself. They don't close doors, right? They open doors. We're looking for the hidden gem, right? This would be the equivalent of making the trade for the guy who's been, washed up in rookie ball for quite a while. You see a little possibility there. And I think I do. So
now, most of the time, a GM or a manager would be able to lean on video or footage of the player that they are potentially going to take on. You're blind faith.
This is blind faith, except for one thing: hearing the passion in his voice, hearing the want to, hearing his why. These are the things that I'm banking on. It's things that you don't see when you see the film, okay? Right? And it's not about your advanced metrics, all you stat heads out there, because he's got none. Okay? He's 0 for 0 with a 0.00 batting average.
Never struck out.
No strikeouts. Never gotten out.
Yeah.
Never been retired.
Yeah. I mean, people all the time after Nebraska loses close game after close game, what do people call into Big Red Overreaction and say? You just got to want it.
Yeah.
You just got to want it more.
Got to want it more.
And
you know what else?
Nick probably does want it more.
You know what else I hear coaches talking about? They don't like when people specialize. They like to see multi-sport athletes. Okay?
Mm-hmm.
And if I know anything, that guy is a legend in the Frisbee Frolf community, from what I hear. Okay? And I think there's a lot that translates.
Many are saying.
There's a lot that translates. For instance, you use your arm in both sports.
Both sports take place outside.
Boom. Boom. I mean, it's its cousin, really, Frolf and slow pitch softball. So Adam says Grimm's a wild card amongst wild cards. This could flame out or flame on, and that's the beauty of it. I'll take the blame. You come to me. You come to me if there are issues in it. I feel like he's the headliner of the free agent class.
Wow.
Well, I say that just because there's, it's such an alluring storyline. But I had to do a little balance in my free agent acquisitions. So I have also acquired a little bit of someone with more of a veteran presence.
Okay.
In the
That's
softball game.
In the locker room.
And I'll be adding Lincoln Arneal. Also, Lincoln, you guys may know if he covers very closely Nebraska volleyball. He does it for Huskers Illustrated. He's also been a part of the Omaha World-Herald. He's got a pretty good podcast that's out right now, which I helped him start. And I'm excited. He apparently, I have not seen him play in person. And again, I don't need to, but just going mainly on vibes here once again, and word of mouth marketing about his skills. So we'll be adding Lincoln and Nick to the roster, and we're going to get going a week from Tuesday. So, and we debut our new uniforms also on the field coming up on Tuesday.
The kids love the new uniforms.
The hats are already. Some of my teammates, many of which were at the first Nebraska football press availability before camp, said there was a palpable buzz in the room amongst the media about the new hats.
Whoa!
And in fact, I was told one Tom Chattel sounded very interested in acquiring one of his own. So, Tom, if you're listening today, you let me know. I'll get you one.
High praise.
You get. I want to see by the end of the season, Tom Chattel in the media room wearing the Jack Mitchell softball experience hat. That's what I'd like to see.
That's how you know.
And the kids,
you've gotten over the hump.
Yep.
Right?
And the kids, like it's Oregon gear in 2011. Speaking of which, we'll get into that a little bit later in the show. All right, we're going to grab a break right now. We'll talk a little bit more about what Nebraska showed and didn't show at the open practice, the fundraiser for 1890 plus. We got to get into Colorado. Could this be a thing here with the Athlon investigation? If you haven't read that, I'll tell you a little bit more about what was there. So that and a whole lot more is all coming up. It's a Connor Happer show. We'll take a break right now. You're listening to 1620, The Zone.
Let's get back to the Connor Happer Show on 1620 The Zone.
Welcome back, Connor Happer Show. I am Jack Mitchell in for Connor Happer. I'm actually doing this. I know you guys have been doing it for a week. I'm back in Thursday, I think, this week, and Monday next week, Wednesday next week, I think, as well.
Look at you chipping in.
Doing a few. It's a good time of year to do it. Look, if you asked me to do this, July 1st, I might not have been quite as excited, but this is.
And then on the other side, football season, probably a little too busy.
Yeah, that could be
come
too.
Down here and do this.
That could be too. But we're in a fairly good zone of actually being able to talk about football. And now look at this. We've got the Nebraska football program opening up a practice for the general public to see what's going on, to develop some hot takes. I mean, Matt Rule said it during the press conference before. I listened to the whole thing. Matt Rule said, he was asked a question, you're going to get people, I think it might have been Kevin Suits asked a question. You're going to get people who are, obviously going to see this. And I think he was specifically talking about the quarterback position, and they're going to overgeneralize too much. And what message you want to have to them. And the first thing Rule said was like, well, this is kind of why we do something like this is so people can get a chance to see this and develop opinions. So I'm paraphrasing here, but he essentially said, go for it. So let's go for it. Let's wildly speculate. Now, in all seriousness, obviously it is a picture in time, one night, one practice. Exceptions can happen for certain, without a doubt. And I wasn't there. We're going to talk to Sam McKewon, who was there. So we'll ask him about some of the things that he saw. But I've talked to multiple people who were there, and I'm curious if any of you were there too. Give me your takes if you were there, because Matt Rule has encourgive us to have some hot takes.
Yeah, this is you're
you're
the expert.
You're essentially doing what he wants you to do with this whole thing. So give us a call, a text, or a tweet if you were there. Curious what your thought. But I did my best to gather information from those who were there, both in talking to them and then reading some of the media accounts that were there. And here was the consensus I got. Let me know if you guys heard anything different than that. But here was the consensus I got from what could be gleaned from a short practice by 3,500 people plus media on Saturday night. Number one, nobody got dissuaded about Dylan Raiola. Okay. Bottom line, no one got their whatever excitement level that they had or assuredness that they had that he was going to be the starter. That was not clouded from anyone that I heard watch this thing. So that's maybe going to be the first and foremost, the biggest thing people are going to ask about this, right? What'd you think, Dylan? What did he look like? Well, as expected is essentially what I'm hearing from everybody who was there at that point. Same things that you hear, looks poised, right? Looks like he's experienced, looks like he belongs there, made good throws, right? I think Sam said something in his article that maybe his mechanics aren't perfect 100% of the time, but he's still making throws that are incredibly impressive.
I would argue Patrick Mahomes' mechanics are far from perfect.
It's another duplication. Here he's doing it again. He's even making his mechanics just slightly imperfect.
I don't
be little Pat.
I don't know if he looks like Patty when he throws the football, but one would think he's tried to mimic. By the way, style.
I got a kick out of the when he was at his press availability last week, which, by the way, I thought he did a pretty good job addressing, because that thing can get out of hand. And I was amused when Tyreek Hill and Patrick Mahomes were tweeting about it, and ESPN was talking about it. But then I got this thought in my mind. I was like, man, and it's just like, oh, this is going to be turned on him. This is going to be turned on him by haters at some point, right?
First pick, they're going to.
Yeah, I mean, unfortunately, you have a lot of these sometimes in the fan base itself. I don't think we're at risk of that for a while, but I can already see it. Nebraska gets down to Colorado, throws a pick. Here come the hey, doesn't look like Patrick Mahomes anymore, does he? You know, it's opened the door for a lot of that. I thought he did a very good job saying, hey, just so you know, the hair I've been wearing since sixth grade, which is, you know, that apparently was not something that was before Patrick Mahomes, at least was who Patrick Mahomes is right now. It wasn't that long ago, but it was before Patrick Mahomes was. He said that the sunglasses, because I was a baseball player. And if you've ever seen, I know Omaha knows this, you ever seen any youth baseball player? There is one accessory they always have all summer long.
One of
every
them.
single, usually upside down on their hat, right?
Uh-huh.
Usually upside, and it's that exact style too, which I think of as, you know, the in my day the Oakley blades were the thing. That's what was popular, and then David Duvall rocked them, and so I still sort of, it's interesting to me that they're kind of back in fashion favor right now. But he said all that, but he said on the other hand, you know, there's obviously if you're a quarterback today going into college football, and you're the type of quarterback that Dylan Raiola is, you'd be stupid not to, you know, emulate to some degree, and or if you get the chance, work with him, of course, Patrick Mahomes. You'd be stupid because that is what everybody in the NFL is looking for.
Mm-hmm.
That's what everyone in the NFL is looking for. So I thought he handled that. I thought he handled that overall really well. And so we continue to check boxes under Dylan. And you know, I've already said it again. I've got the emotional wall built around me. I'm not saying anything is wrong or bad or anything like it's, you know, anything's been reported inaccurately. I just am going to have to see it before I can fully embrace all of that. That's it. That's all. Okay. It's not distrust of anyone either. It's distrust of myself and my own emotion.
You're trying to take care of yourself.
Exactly. Yeah. Self-care. Other things.
I got a tweet here.
Yeah.
If you would like it from Mitchell.
Yeah.
His takes from practice.
Okay, let's go. What do we got?
Sierra had a nice pick in 1-versus-1 drills.
The actor?
Yes.
From Blackish? What?
Gramstad will push for QB2.
Whoa. Okay. This is give me these. Who's this from? Who wrote this?
This is from Mitchell.
Mitchell, let's go. This is what Matt Rule wanted you to do. Gramstad will push for QB. That is the kind of hot take I needed after this thing. Okay. Has he got any more?
He's got one more. Corcoran got rolled up on during 9-versus-7. Keep an eye on that.
Okay. Oh, got hurt, like as in got hurt. Okay. Potentially got hurt.
Yeah.
Okay. I was a little surprised. That was another thing I heard, that he was practicing with the first team, which I was a little surprised to hear. I think Prohaska is still in their plans and will be, obviously, but just how it broke out that first time. I'm honestly kind of surprised that Corcoran's still playing the position that he is, to be honest. I thought you might start to see him at guard, but that was another thing I heard. The concern levels were kind of the same. A little bit about the offensive line from people who were there, and a lot about the special teams. And I don't know exactly what you who were there saw. Let me know that elicited specific concern, or if that's just built up from an amalgamation of, the past decade plus of special teams play, because it's been one of those ongoing issues that transcends years and coaches and everything. But especially right now, when you've got your kicker who's injured at this point and had his own set of issues, and you wonder about personnel. And then last year in the return game, they basically went into, at least on punt returns, just complete mistake avoidance, ultra conservative for the end of the season. As in, like, hey, any of you guys return kicks in high school? Yeah. Anyone?
Go on, get back there.
So I don't know how much of it came from anything that was seen currently, as opposed to just the buildup of all of those years. But listen, it's about as much of a concern as there is right now to be. That's front and center. I'm not saying other ones won't come up, but yeah, if you're having me list out right now, based on what I do know, the things that you haven't yet seen from this team, and that is just quality special teams play almost, consistently through a whole season. You haven't seen it, and it wasn't, and again, it just wasn't the rule area. It's like the turnovers. Coach after coach after coach after coach here. It's still the close losses, coach after coach after coach after coach here. It's one of those bugaboos that continues to come back. And people, I think maybe, I don't know if you feel this way or not, but I think we underestimate generally the impact that special teams has on game outcomes. I think and last year is a great example of it. It made a huge, there's probably a game every year, a full game that goes the other direction. If special teams is better.
I mean,
at least
field position is huge. Look at what Iowa was able to do to people because they control the field position battle, and then their defense isn't going to let many through. So it's very easy to kind of control especially when you don't have an offense. Very easy to control a lot of aspects of the game.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, Mike says Foley is the hottest seat on the staff. I mean, yeah, there's no question. The talk has been, the focus has been about turnovers, and that's obviously someplace that they've got to make huge improvements if they want to get to the point that they want to be this year. But special teams is not that far behind the turnovers, I don't think. It really isn't. But look at, I'm not saying they haven't done with this with special teams, but look at the priority about turnovers, right? You got coaches who are coming out and saying this year, look, it's going to cost you playing time if you're turning the ball over. Which again, aren't you really just talking about, you're really talking about the quarterback, maybe a running back when you say that. Because there have been, it's been differently applied to running backs as it has quarterbacks. So I don't know if anybody needs to lay down that gauntlet here at this point, because assuming the starting quarterback is who I think the starting quarterback is going to be, I don't know. I doubt they're going to have that short of a leash in terms of turnovers. So I don't know if I would play that up all that much. And maybe you're more thinking about running backs, right? And they did that last year with Anthony Grant, aka I Test Anthony.
And it would stand to reason that there's 4 or 5 guys in that room that are all pretty much the same.
Right.
I got 4 more of you. Take a seat.
Yeah. Well, and I think they were going to do that anyway, regardless if somebody was fumbling. So yeah, there's going to be if there's any reason to make that running back room a little bit more narrow, figuring out who's getting the carries, fumbles will certainly play into it. Now, in terms of that, from hearing from people that I talked to who were there, curious what you guys think if you were there. I had one person say Emmett Johnson looks like he's going to be the one, and then I had a couple of people say Gabe Ervin looked good, looked a little slimmed down, obviously looked healthy at this point. He was on the field, and that's one of the biggest issues for him. But those were the 2 running backs that I heard good things about. Yeah, and then beyond that, heard a little bit, heard some good comments when it comes to Buford playing in the defensive backfield. I had that. I mean, at this point, I don't know who is going to be a corner and who is going to be a safety. And even when I thought to some degree I had some idea about that, Rule's press conference made me wonder even more again, who is going to, because they have really, and apparently this is more of a trend in college football than I realized, that the guys are not locked in to one position or the other so much. So I would not limit I know the thought was going to be Tommy Hill and Bly Hill coming into the season. Bly Hill's, it looks like, going to be out for a little while, but I think the world of who could be at that other spot is very broad. I think it could be, some of the, potentially one of the young cornerbacks that in there. It could be somebody that you think of as a nickel or a safety. I think there's a lot of players that could end up getting that spot. And that's probably, honestly, the most interesting true position battle of the spring, I would say, in addition to maybe whatever's happening at that tackle spot with Corcoran and Prohaska. So those were kind of generally the things that I heard on this. Interesting on that Gramstad take, though. that we had from the listener that he thinks that he's got a shot at being the actual number 2. Because I heard, fine things about how Heinrich Haarberg looked in this whole thing too. The interesting question with him is, if he has to play at some point, how much do you change the offense?
Mm-hmm.
Like, how much do you have to change the offense if he's ending up playing? And is that less true with a guy like Gramstad? I mean, that would really surprise me. That would really surprise. And this is and I'm as much of a Gramstad homer as there's possible, since we share an alma mater.
Mm-hmm.
In fact, there was apparently he had a touchdown pass. Gramstad did, the Northwestern College transfer to Malachi Coleman, the Lincoln East grad. It was like it fused all my alma maters together in one amazing play. It was the greatest play for me in school alma mater history. Got my undergrad alma mater throwing a touchdown to my high school alma mater while playing for my law school alma mater. It was very nice. So go ahead.
I speculated that QB2 might depend on the situation in which QB2 is going in. Is it guy goes down and we need somebody for a quick play? That might be a spot for Heinrich. If it is, you are starting this game, we have 6 days to get you ready for it, that might be a spot where you go Gramstad.
And here's the other question about that, Josh, is what kind of a role will Heinrich Haarberg have, if any, outside of playing quarterback?
Mm-hmm.
Presuming Dylan Raiola gets the start at quarterback. People forget Heinrich Haarberg was playing tight end against Minnesota last year. I believe he had more catches than any other tight end in that game, if I recall correctly.
That I believe.
I know he had more than Fedoni
right,
in that game. Borkacher maybe had a catch that I'm not remembering there. But, like, that was the plan last year, when I would say, and apparently that gives you a window into what they were thinking about Jeff Sims at that time. And that obviously changed quickly. But is there any reason, if they did that last year, that they wouldn't do it this year? And also sliding again. This is just me rolling with thoughts here. But sliding Carter Nelson to wide receiver, I know it makes it easier to get him on the field, but I was a little surprised they did that too, just because it doesn't seem like there's a ton of real deep depth in the tight end room. I think you've got two guys, and they also moved Ismail Smith Flores from the tight end position to linebacker position as well. I thought he looked pretty good at tight end in the spring game. Is this some writing on the wall that Haarberg's going to be a factor in that tight end room if he is not playing quarterback? And obviously, you have to make that switch, but they were going to do it last year. It's not that they're not willing to do that.
1 catch for 10 yards against Minnesota.
Yeah, 1 catch for 10 yards.
That was the most.
That was it. That was the most out of the tight ends.
Yeah.
Oh boy. But I would be surprised, I think, at this point, if you don't see him in a tight end like role. By the way, I mean, maybe they're all in on this positionless thing too, right? I just said it about the defensive backfield. Tight ends playing wide receiver, wide ends playing tight end. You got Janiron Bonner, who I guess is a fullback, but he's also kind of a wide receiver tight end. He's kind of, they have really taken that seriously in terms of the positionless players and the trying to sort of curate the role, not so much based on a position name, but on what that player is capable of doing. And everything about that says to me, we're going to try and figure out how to use Heinrich Haarberg, especially given the things we want to do with that position. And I mean, he wasn't playing. I don't think he played a ton of downs in that Minnesota game last year, but it was a handful of them and enough to get a catch during the course of that game too. So I'm trying to remember if I had heard any other hot takes based on this, but we want hot takes. We want to know what people saw, what they thought, what they're hearing about that practice, because it's the only window you're really going to get outside of little bits of maybe warm-ups and those sorts of things before we actually get to the game.
Practice reports.
Yep, those sorts of things. So let me know. Hit us up on the text line. Hit us up on the YouTube chat. Hit me up on Twitter at Jack Mitchell LNK. Curious, especially if you were there. Give us your hot takes. Give us your thoughts on what you saw, even if you are fully admitting you are overreacting.
Yeah, that's okay too. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, this is what we get. This is what we wanted. This is what we're going to do with this whole thing as well. So
It's
I
what
am
we do in the
welcoming
spring
that.
game every year.
Yeah. I'm welcoming it. This is what we've been wanting to. We have been this is again why I'm doing this show right now is because we have actual football to talk about. We have an actual practice we saw to talk about. It's not the speculation of May and June and July, right? Actual football, even if it was just a small dose of it, some was played.
In week 6, you're going to call Big Red overreaction, and you're going to go, why aren't they playing XYZ more? He looked good in that open practice I went to. Call us now. Just do that now.
I can't wait till we get references back to the open practice, which have been taken as gospel truth.
I was at
for the rest
open
of the
practice.
season. I was at that open practice, and my eyes saw it. Right?
You do it during the spring game, you know you're going to do it during open practice.
Yeah, that's good. That's good. All right, let's grab a break. Right now, you are listening to the Connor Happer Show. I'm Jack Mitchell sitting in for Connor. We got more coming up. 1620 The Zone.
Here come the Guardians.
Yeah, I have statistics to back up that we have people that listen.
Mike Schaefer.
Anytime there's sort of a debate as to who can do something, Happer would always put his name forth, for sure.
Husker 24/7 on the Connor Happer Show on 1620 The Zone.
I could be a star.
It's always nice before you do an interview to get a warm-up interview before it. Just kind of a dry run, dress rehearsal type situation. By the way, Jack Mitchell sitting in for Connor Happer today on the Connor Happer Show. And here it is, not even lunchtime yet. Now that the dress rehearsal is over, it is my second shot at an interview with Mike Schaefer. Hope to improve on it from the first one I did this morning on my own show in Lincoln. Good morning again, Mike.
How we doing? This is the first for me. I've never been interviewed by the same person twice on two different radio shows in two different cities.
Yeah, it is. And I thought about just sending Josh the file of the first one and just you and I taking a snooze. I'm sure you could use it, but I decided better of it. I think we can really improve on the whole thing. Yeah.
Well, and show is less restrictive than your show. You can talk about anything on Happer's show. Sometimes we just, he reads headlines of celebrity news and I say things like, I've never heard of Billie Eilish or things like that.
Or we could talk about, let's really, dig into the psychoanalysis. Why generally in life, I think you tend to like me, but when it comes to fantasy football and we're in the same league, Mike hates me like I am his Colorado, Iowa, and Texas all wrapped up into one. And you guys, he just bullies me the entire fantasy football season with this group of mutual friends that we have. It's tough. People don't see this side of you
because you just do terrible things and put together terrible rosters and then somehow miraculously get bailed out over and over. And I end up with players like Christian McCaffrey, who can't stay healthy until he leaves my team. Patrick Mahomes, who's the number one quarterback every year he's not on my team. Things of that nature. There's Matt Breida and his miracle touchdown run, which prevented me from winning the league, looking back on how everything broke out after that happened. I don't know. There's a few things in there. You tend to win a lot of matchups by not scoring many points and just playing incredible fantasy football defense.
So I'm Iowa. The Iowa of fantasy football. No wonder you hate me.
I think it's valid. It's valid. I really do.
People should just see.
The thing is, I do genuinely like you. Your fantasy football organization is just detestable. It's everything we don't stand for, which generally at this point, since I don't win and I win the off season every year. I'm Nebraska and you're Iowa. This is a depressing interview right now.
I'm genuinely taken back by how much Mike wants me to lose and not do well. I feel like Nebraska.
I want you to lose. I want just results when you're 75 points manages to squeak out another win.
I feel like Nebraska circa about 1985 when Bill McCartney determined, right, Nebraska is going to be our target for everything. And they're just doing their business, getting ready for Iowa State or something. And all of a sudden, no red in Colorado. We're hearing this thing. We're like, Colorado, we don't know. That's kind of how I feel about you, winning titles, doing those sorts of things.
Does that mean I'll have like a couple year run where I'm really good? Because I'm still waiting for that.
Yeah. Get ready. Get ready for the Darian Hagan years. They're still coming for you. It's very exciting.
Because right now I'm more the bottom out of the Dan Hawkins era of Colorado than I am the early '90s Bill McCartney.
Well, I guess the prime era could be coming too, but I don't know how good that looks anymore. We'll see. We'll see. Let's see here. Okay, I know you weren't there on Saturday, but do you expect more events and even more creative events sort of coming down the pike for Nebraska fans with this partnership and fundraising opportunity that they had over the weekend?
Maybe. Haven't been particularly creative or thought outside of the box much so far. That doesn't mean that they can't, but it's also it's one of those things you really have to figure out and think okay, different ways that we can do stuff. I don't know that that's necessarily how the 1890 model had gotten to where it is. I mean, they just have to be different than sort of where they are. And I don't mean that as a bad thing. I just mean it hasn't necessarily been a big tent donation opportunity. It's largely been centered around, a smaller group of people that have consistently donated money. And that's great. But how do you bring more people in? How do you get the general public? I guess is what I'm trying to say. And so they have to come up with more of these ideas. I think it was a good idea. The problem was trying to execute that in a short window. And then also just the different factors that line up against you. The weather was going to be really, really hot. So you couldn't do it earlier in the day. The later you have it, the harder it is for people who have to travel or people with kids. Having it at $25 a head is really hard to justify if you have a family and you want to bring all of them, and you're paying $25 for an 8-year-old to go to this thing. So I just think they have to workshop it, and there's definitely going to be opportunities out there to do different stuff. And I think the good thing is they have somebody in terms of Matt Rule who always thinks outside of the box and has an endless amount of creativity. And so if they can marry their resources with sort of his creativity, I think Nebraska and 1890 are all going to benefit going forward because they'll have more of these sorts of things. And it'll be a little bit more put together than maybe what this was here on Saturday. I don't want to talk down on it because it's good that they've done stuff like this. It's just that they have to continue to workshop it. It's all new, anytime you start something, it's not just going to be perfect right off the bat. And I do think that you have to give people a reason to donate and to care that shouldn't just be, and I see this a lot, and particularly with very online people, it shouldn't just be, oh, you can never complain about things unless you donate to Nebraska's NIL situation. I don't think that's true at all. I mean, you shouldn't base someone's level of interest or fanhood or whether they get to have an opinion or not on their financial contribution to a collective. So I think that they have to provide some sort of something that makes people want to part with their money, particularly, in this day and age when you have so many options. And Nebraska football hasn't been good. But there needs to be a compelling reason for people to continue to give money to NIL other than just guilt. And I don't know that it's really there at this point in time.
There's absolutely a class of class isn't the right word, but a big subset of people who are never going to make a direct donation, right. To an NIL, but they would definitely go to a practice like this. And especially if they feel like that it might be overpriced, but they feel like, well, it's going to quote unquote a good cause.
And that's what I meant by, and I did a horrible job explaining this earlier, but that's what I meant by making it a big tent thing. Like you're not necessarily going to get these people to donate $100 or $200 to go to a recruiting talk or whatever it is. But how can you get a large amount of people to give you a small amount of money that builds up over time? And what different ways can you do it? How can you make things, interesting and fun and everything else for them to make it seem like it's you're part of something or you're doing something or you're contributing, but you're not really having to give away the store to do it. So it's that's where the challenge of having the creative thinkers married with the people who can actually make stuff happen. But that's why it's not just so simple as everyone should just donate money. People need a reason.
Yeah. Well, and this feels like it's just the tip of the iceberg of that whole thing, like you said, right?
Hopefully.
I mean, because you're just you're in a new era of cooperation from within the athletic department. Is my understanding.
Well, and you should be able to wield that. I mean, I'm sitting here. I'm not going to say them out loud because it's not my job. And some of it wouldn't benefit me greatly. But there's a lot of different ways that you can create stuff and do stuff for your fan base that can help bring back things, in terms of donation and everything else.
Yeah, I think we're thinking of the same type things. Yeah, for sure. And you've got an athletic department that's cooperating with you. Oh, and you've got a whole group of players that you're under contract with, essentially, right? And that they can be a part of it in some way, maybe a more creative way than just going through their regular practice. So, yeah, I think there's going to be a lot more of this. I think it'll get a lot more creative. And maybe that's how already happening in other places, and I'm just not totally aware of it. But I've got to imagine they're going to be and like you said, it probably does a couple of things. It probably gives fans some new, interesting opportunities. It opens the door for donations that wouldn't have been made anyways. Also, probably, in some ways, it'll probably provide some competition for some things that exist right now, I would think.
Yeah, there's no doubt about it. And it'll be really interesting to see how they choose to go forward.
Yeah.
Right? I think in order to prevent being ABM Part 2, they have to evolve. And I think this is the first sort of step of what we're seeing there. And I'll be fascinated to see where it goes.
Hey, I want to ask you about the more and more I hear from people who are at the event and just the general discussion about whether it be the decision to play Carter Nelson, tight end to wide receiver, the possible moving of safeties to cornerback in this whole thing. Like, they are taking this positionless thing, it feels like, very seriously, in some way, maybe very literally. How do you sort of define what you think that means and how it will, is this going to make it feel very different than even last season? Is this more of a thing than it used to be now? How will this positionless concept that they seem to embrace play out during the course of the season at multiple positions?
I can't speak to how exactly it'll play out in terms of the results, but I think we've seen it for quite some time now under this staff. I mean, they want football athletes. They don't want football position players. And what I mean by that is, I think and this is me. I mean, I haven't had direct conversations with Matt Rule about it, but he's talked enough in these tones, and different people over there have talked enough in these tones. I think there's certain roles that are specialists. Like, I think a quarterback is a specialist. More likely than not, you're going to try to go get a quarterback based on what he's doing as a quarterback. You're going to do that with your kicker and your punter and your long snapper, and you're going to want returners that are specialists for you. And in some cases, you might want some guys in your class that are special teams aces that can be gunners and covermen and all of these different things. So you're going to look for this class of specialists. And then everyone else, with the way that they recruit, it is so much measured off of their total athleticism and so less measured off of, well, he's a running back in high school, so he would definitely play running back for us. No, he might be a wide receiver. He might grow into being a tight end. He's a particularly big guy. He's a tight end in high school. That means he's going to be a tight end at Nebraska. No, he might actually end up being a wide receiver because you're going to split him out at the wide receiver spot, and he's a bigger wide receiver, but you're not going to use him as an inline blocker. He's going to be more like Kyle Pitts. Or he was a tight end in high school, and he might actually end up as an offensive guard for you because he's really good at controlling the line of scrimmage. And we think with Corey Campbell at 6'3.5", this guy, this fictional tight end that I've invented in my head and saying out loud, he can be a really good run blocker. So we're going to put an extra 40, 50 pounds on him, and then we're going to turn him loose on the interior of the offensive line because he's already shown a tendency to be able to block. But we think he can do more for us than just being our third tight end. We think he can be a potential starting guard someday. But that is what they're doing. When they recruit, it's on baseline athleticism. It's on track numbers. It's on frame projection. It does not have anything to do with the statistical output of what they do at high school. And and it doesn't really have to do with what position they play. I mean, think of some of these guys they brought in recent classes that have already changed positions. Mm-hmm. Ishmael Smith-Flores is an outside linebacker now. Yeah. I mean, they want to take athleticism, try it at different positions, see where it fits best. If it's not a fit, or if you're deep somewhere, try them somewhere else. I think that they really believe in their ability to coach and teach football. That if you are a really good athlete who's never played football before, they can make you a good football player because they believe in what they're doing in terms of the teaching aspect of it. What they can't do is make you necessarily faster. They can make you bigger, stronger, better at blocking, better at reading your keys, those types of things. But they can't just make your baseline athleticism jump 2 levels in the way that your skill development could jump just based off of their coaching. It's a very different approach than what we've seen in the past. It's very different than certainly how people play NCAA 25. But it is, the idea of it is we're going to collect athletes, and we believe in how we can coach football. The athletes are going to assimilate to different positions. And whether that means Javen Wright's an inside linebacker, an outside linebacker, a rover, or if we have to have him play as a nickelback sometimes because once he was a safety and once he was a corner, we can do all of those things. It's almost like it's taking JoJo Domann and making that all 11 players on defense sometimes.
Yeah. Yeah, it's interesting. I know you got to go too, but it's just like it's almost like you get like when you were talking about tight end. It sort of feels after I hear you say that it's like you've been smoking weed all day, and you get to these existential questions like, dude, what even is a tight end?
It's sometimes a blocker, but sometimes he catches the
Like,
ball. But what if we just have him do one or the other?
Maybe Carter Nelson still is a tight end, even though he's split out wide.
Nelson could return punts for them or kicks for them. Like there's no limit to their imagination of someone's baseline athleticism. Like they're very, very unrestrictive when it comes to looking at their talent and deciding what to do with it going forward.
Nash Hutmaker QB, make it happen. Make it happen.
Hey, if Sue can play fullback and catch passes against Kansas, I believe it was,
right.
We could see a Nash at fullback formation and not blink.
I'd love it. I'd love it. Positionless offense. Let your mind go to levels that you never even thought were possible. Amazing. Thank you, Mike. I appreciate it. Good to talk. I think this is it for today. Just these two. So.
Hey, well, if you want to chat this afternoon on your drive home, we can pretend like there's listeners.
Oh, sounds good. All right, we'll do that again. Number 3 on our way home. Only if you're in my car or near Mike, you'll get to hear it. Thank you, Mike. I appreciate it. Have a good one.
Good
job. Mike Schaefer, Husker 24/7. Yeah, I've got myself into this world of positionless everything. I'm reevaluating, Josh, everything I thought about what the essence of being a tight end even means at this point.
It is a good comp of the guy smoking all day and getting into things that are way deeper than
right. All of a sudden, you're like, dude, what even is a tight end if you think about it? Is it where he lines up, or is it his role in blocking and receiving, or can he really be anything?
I don't know if you've watched the NFL lately. The tight ends seem to be able to do whatever they want.
Right. We put all these false constructs around our football players, and I like to think freely. Anyone can be anything, dude.
You're always told growing up you can be whatever you want to be.
There you go. Yeah. Even if you're told, even if the little line buyer on your roster, at some point they're just going to get rid of, because they've generalized the roster positions. If you go to the online roster so much now, right? It just says DB. It doesn't see cornerback,
right?
Safety for the most part, right? It just says DL. It doesn't say end or interior alignment. The next step is just one is going to say defense and offense. And then the next step after that, it's just going to say player by every single one, all the way up and down.
Instead of converting athletes to positions, everyone's going to just eventually be quote unquote downgraded to athlete, and then you'll have 105 athletes on the roster.
Instead of putting positions on athletes, you're putting athletes on positions.
Whoa, man. Whoa.
All right, we'll take a break. We got the odd news with Oddson coming up next. I'm Jack Mitchell in for Connor Happer. It's Connor Happer Show, 1620 The Zone.
And now we've reached the point in the show where Josh Odson reads the peculiar, the bizarre, the comical, the odd news with Odd Son. Odd news, Odd Son. See what we did there? The odd news with Oddson.
I've heard this segment many times while walking my dog. This is usually dog walking time.
Okay.
It's usually Connor and Josh for me during dog walking time, although we've kind of postponed dog walking time because the dog doesn't want to go out when it's 100 degrees out. But
Makes
it looks like
sense.
we're changing after that. So I'll be back to that one. I'm not hosting the show over the next 2 weeks. Again, I'm Jack Mitchell. Again for Connor Happer, and it's time for the odd news with Dodson. So what do we got in the headlines today, Josh?
Well, a high school baseball pitcher has gone viral this weekend for not a great reason. Cade Johnson, that's Cade with a K.
Oh,
by the way, if you're trying to look it up. Montgomery, Texas is where this video comes to us from. Mid-pitch, he loses his lunch.
Oh!
Now, we've seen people do it before, after, and all that, but puking mid-pitch is really something new, at least for me. We've seen big leaguers do it. We saw Reds pitcher Hunter Green do it earlier this season, but the Cade Johnson toeing the rubber for the 17 and under Lone Star State team in the South, 17 under WWBA South World Series, whatever that is. Sure, it's a very prestigious event.
Yes.
Just let it fly.
Did we get a ball or a strike in this? Or was the pitch taken? Do we know the answer to that?
That's a great follow-up question.
Okay.
I don't have that.
Because I feel like if you happen to throw a strike in that moment, you've just done a great mental misdirection.
Mike, also very quick to add in the YouTube chat, we've seen me puke in a trash can in this very room.
That's true.
Yeah.
That's a moment, right? Again, a good mental misdirection for everyone.
People are referring, I don't know if the pitch was a ball or a strike, but people are calling him Barfolo Colon.
Okay, that's not bad.
Yeah.
That's not bad. Now I'm trying to think of some other ones. That's pretty good. All right. Up Chuck Finley.
Oh,
I don't know if I can keep that going.
No.
Yeah.
Send us your suggestions.
Pukedro Martinez.
Right.
That's a little rough.
Yeah.
That one needs some work.
We go to LA for story number 2. And you do a news-based show. I'm sure you're familiar. Things in California, you can steal things. It's allowed. Not necessarily on the books, but off the books. 10 businesses in the LA area, San Fernando area, actually have been burglarized as of late. And the police think that it's a string of burglaries committed by just one person because he's been leaving notes afterwards that say, "I'm sorry, I need money for drugs. I won't come back."
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
So doing it in about the least invasive way possible, with an apology and a promise that it's just going to be a one-time deal.
Yes.
Wow.
He's left numerous Post-it notes behind that say, "Sorry, need money for drugs, won't come back." One business owner told Fox station in LA that and this is hilarious, the burglar left broken glass everywhere. Yeah, they're not going to clean up afterwards.
Right.
Took the bills out of the trash can, but out of the cash register, but left the coins. Well, again, yes. Yeah, that's
right.
You've never been robbed before, clearly.
Yes.
This is how it goes. So police are still on the lookout for this individual, but they feel they've got it narrowed down.
Yeah, I would think so.
To whoever's leaving a note.
I would think so. If he's got a bit, when you have a person of interest, got to check the pockets for Post-it notes, of course.
And then finally, we go to Paris in the Olympics. This story was reported widely over the weekend, but I just kind of wanted the Jack Mitchell take of the two tennis stars who were dating and then broke up shortly before the Olympics and managed to medal.
Oh,
this
I didn't
weekend.
hear this. Okay. So same team. What do we got here?
This is a mixed doubles team.
Oh, they're on a team.
Yes, they are on a team together.
Oh.
They are from they're Czech.
Okay.
Czech,
Which is now, this is another one where
Yeah.
we changed, like Turkey.
It's Czechia.
Yes, it's now Czechia. Not to be confused with Chechnya.
Right.
Czechia.
They've actually made it more confusing,
Yes.
many would say. It's no longer Czechoslovakia.
Or the Czech Republic.
Right.
Yes.
Katerina Sinikova and Tomas Makic shared a kiss as they won the mixed doubles event in an epic tie. It's not winning against a Chinese duo. The couple had dated since 2020, but it was confirmed in the lead up to Paris that they had parted ways, and they ended up winning the gold at Roland Garros over the weekend. They would not comment on their personal life after the win.
Ooh, but they did kiss.
They did kiss.
It's back on.
Many are wondering, in my own life, if I had broken up with someone, I certainly would not travel across the globe and work intimately with them each and every day.
Yeah, somebody wanted it. Somebody wasn't giving up on that whole thing, right? I mean, this gives when they say 40 love, this means something else entirely when you're talking about this tennis team.
Funny you say 40 love.
I'm the 9,000th person to make that joke.
Yes, many said that would be the name of the Hallmark movie that this story
It sounds
gets
like a
turned
Hallmark
into.
movie. It sounds like a amazing rom-com.
Now,
right?
I don't know who's lifting who in this scenario, but the female member of this team, Katerina, she did win the women's doubles title at Wimbledon. This year. So she has won Wimbledon and a gold medal in the same summer.
And as we found out, doubles in itself is not singles doesn't just translate to doubles because they put Nadal together with Alcaraz and they
didn't go all the way.
As good as it gets in the singles, but they couldn't do a whole lot. Yeah, it kind of sounds like. Do you remember the movie? What is it? Is it The Cutting Edge? Is that what it is?
The ice skating movie?
Yeah. Wasn't that kind of the Winter Olympics version? Although they were never together in the first place.
They got together.
You had the former hockey player and you had the figure skater, and they trained for the Olympics, or maybe it wasn't actually the Olympics.
A temperamental figure skater and an arrogant former hockey player attempt to win the Olympic gold.
Yes. This is the summer version. I think there might already have been a modernized version of The Cutting Edge that actually came out too. I think they've rebooted that already once.
Rebooted The Cutting Edge?
I think that's true. I thought I vaguely, I could be wrong about that. But if they haven't, I mean, this is it, right? This is it. It's a little less intimate than having to skate together with someone is, so you can't have the physical comedy that kind of goes along with that. But I think, being in Paris, of course,
City of Love.
I think there's a lot there for Hallmark to work with.
Absolutely. Yeah. People were very excited that they were able to work through their difficulties.
Yeah, for sure. All right. Well, there we go. That's good. That's
amazing. Daniel tweets in, that's not such a big deal. Fleetwood Mac would like a word.
That's exactly right. And they continue to put out incredible albums with just horrendous romantic drama running through everyone.
Fair point.
Everyone, right? Yeah. Call me when you get an entire one of those mixed relay teams, right? That they're doing now.
They've all intertwined at some point.
When it's a Fleetwood Mac situation going on with an entire 4x100 medley relay or whatever it is. That's what I want to see. Yeah. All right. There you go. That's it for the odd news.
That is it for the odd news.
All right. There you go. That is the odd news with Oddson. We are going to take a quick break here. Haven't had a chance yet to get to this. The coaches poll is out, guys.
Hello.
The coaches poll, another one of the rights of the pre-football season. Box checked. We've got the coaches poll. We will let you know what they think. Spoiler alert. It's a lot of SEC and Big Ten teams.
Oh, you don't say.
But which ones? We'll tell you next. Coming up, Jack Mitchell in for Connor Happer on the Connor Happer Show. You're listening to 1620, The Zone. Welcome back, 1620 The Zone. Jack Mitchell in for Connor Happer. It's changing diapers.
Sucker.
I haven't done that for years.
Yeah.
Awesome. There does get to be a point as a parent where you hit sort of the desirable things about having older kids, i.e. you can leave them home alone.
Oh, that would
right.
be amazing.
Well, even below that, they can get out of the car by themselves.
Oh.
That had to be the biggest moment of intoxicating freedom as a parent.
Just hit the phase with my 5-year-old where he can buckle his own seatbelt.
That's major.
What a time saver.
The freedom you will feel when they get out of the car by themselves and into the car. There's no door opening or you're carrying out. It's just it feels like it saves you an hour every day, which it doesn't, but it feels like it does. Now, the next problem then becomes, of course, every time you enter into a parking lot, you have a minor freak out that your kid is going to put a dent in the Cybertruck next to you.
Don't swing that door.
Hey. Watch. Be careful. Careful with the doors. Careful with the doors.
There's a finesse balance there.
Yes. So I like to gloat in my old childness occasionally, but not as cute. So I lose out there. No offense.
Sure.
To my own kids. They're fine looking. The coaches poll is out. The coaches poll is out for college football. All right. So maybe some of you have already seen this on social media. Let's see if we have any surprises in this thing, Josh. Let's see if it's pretty much what we expected with this thing. Because I would have been fun. I've already seen it now. I should have tried to guess the order, but I think it's almost. Well, was there any doubt Georgia was going to be number one? I guess we can start with that. Was there any sense? And again, this is the coaches poll, and maybe the media is different. But did Ohio State ever have a shot at being number one in this thing?
I wouldn't
or did
think
it have
so.
to be Georgia?
Yeah,
Georgia is number one. Ohio State 2, no surprise, and then Oregon 3. Texas 4 ahead of Alabama. Texas 4, Alabama 5, Ole Miss 6, Notre Dame 7. Still like right down the line of exactly what you've heard so far this year. Michigan 8, Penn State 9, Florida State 10. Again, I think that is right now. I mean, that's about as consensus of preseason narrative top 10 as you can ever get during a season. Is like that exact amount of 10. You got Missouri next over LSU. LSU's 12, Missouri's 11. So I know
maybe right there.
Yeah, I mean, it's just in terms of names. I know Missouri's got, returning quarterback back. Burden is back for them. So that's really significant. LSU is breaking in a new quarterback. And so they're 12. Utah 13. Okay. Clemson 14. Tennessee 15. Oklahoma 16. Kansas State 17. A little interesting to see Kansas State lower than maybe Oklahoma.
Yeah.
I mean, it's one spot. Oklahoma State 18. I mean, the coaches think those three teams in the Big 12 are one and the same behind Utah. Oklahoma 16, K-State 17, Oklahoma State 18. Well, that's Oklahoma, not in the Big 12, Jack.
Yeah.
Wow. By the way, I'm going to do that a lot. Okay? I'm going to do that a lot.
I can't imagine you'll be alone, but.
Miami 19, maybe somebody I thought that might have been a little higher. Maybe
playoff.
Team. Maybe somebody would have been a little higher. Texas A&M 20. Arizona, they are a Big 12 team.
Mm-hmm. People forget.
At 21. NC State, quarterback Grayson McCall, the Coastal Carolina transfer. NC State is at 22. Big Ten's own USC at 23.
All right.
Kansas at 24. And they had to do it. Iowa, representing the Big Ten, at 25. So, in summary, to finish this whole thing out, you end up having 0 group of 5 schools.
That's right.
In this entire thing. It's all the big 4, right? It's all Big 12, SEC, Big 10, ACC. They make up every single part of this. If you go in the others receiving votes, your defending national runner-up, Washington, is the first receiving votes at 26, which does anybody ever even really – nobody is really talking about them like a 20, almost top 25 team even, right? So
I talked to a guy on Friday who covers them for the AP, and he's like, yeah, it's a 6-7 win team.
Yeah, that sounds like it is a salute, a nod to last year in some ways. Louisville, 95. That is an oddly good year last year. Virginia Tech, 95 votes, that is. Virginia Tech, I'll go in order. 27th, SMU, 28th, Memphis, 29th, Boise, 30th. All right, we got a couple of smaller schools in there now, group of 5 schools. Then Auburn next, that would be 26. West Virginia, still going, 27. Wisconsin, there's Wisconsin. Where's the Wisconsin love? There's no better August tradition than making sure Wisconsin, no matter who they've got coming back or what it is, and being right exactly half the time, is giving Wisconsin some love in preseason projections. Not this year. Liberty, 29, still going. Iowa State, 30. Kentucky, 31. Florida, 32. South Carolina, 33. Come on, North Carolina, 34. UNLV, 35.
Whoa. Hello.
Maryland, 36. Guys, Central Florida, Maryland, 37. Central Florida. I don't know if my numbers are right at this point anymore, by the way. 38, Texas Tech. 39, UTSA. Come on. 40, Tulane. 41, Texas State. Please. Texas State.
Okay.
Oh, and then we've got a tie for 42 between Nebraska and Colorado.
Oh, come on.
And App State, too. But let's just focus on those first 2. Nebraska and Colorado each getting 2 votes from the coaches.
Behind Texas State.
Behind Texas State. Actually, it's a huge group of Tulane, Texas State, Nebraska, Colorado, App State all have 2.
Oh, okay.
So I misstated
Okay.
that. I misstated that a little bit. But let's see. And we've got the board of coaches who are voting this year. I'm just doing a little quick looking at who is on there. Narduzzi, Niumatalolo, Barry Odom. Yeah, Kirby Smart. Nope, no rule.
Okay.
All right. No rule.
Big 10,
so
4 of the top 10 teams.
Yes.
6 ranked overall, if I'm not forgetting anyone, which is entirely possible.
Yes. So Ohio State, Oregon, Michigan, Penn State is 4, USC, Iowa, 6.
Mm-hmm.
Yep, that's it. 6 of them. There's some interesting stuff. Like the top half or the top 20 of this coaches poll. I mean, it really sort of just fits what all the offseason narratives have been. You can nail it down. But the rest of it, I don't know. And it's probably just because you don't hear as much about the teams that are outside of that top tier. But some of that stuff is pretty interesting to see something like Florida only getting 11 votes even, right? And I know they've got their issues, but
they're down
that's
bad.
Interesting to see, Maryland, to see Wisconsin getting as few as they got as well. Maryland being up there ahead of Nebraska. And there's no other Big Ten teams after Nebraska. I mean, we're only at 2 votes. So the only teams after that are Troy, Syracuse, Miami, Ohio, James Madison, and Air Force. So at least in the coaching ranks, we don't have a lot of there aren't a lot of coaches out there being like, hey, here's a team to watch out for.
You guys,
hey,
listen up. You want a tip?
Here's a team. Yeah, exactly. We don't have a lot of that. No Dion on the voting panel either here for the coaches who are voting this year. And reading this does bring one thought to mind. And I'm curious what all of your input would be on this. One thing that we always have happen for every college football season, after doing this year after year after year after year, we should all be aware of this, but unless we tell ourselves and remind ourselves, we are not aware of it. And that is that there are always these discussion points, these narratives, these assumptions that we go back to all offseason long, all summer long. Well, is it going to, it's going to be Ohio State or Oregon, for instance. We have all of these things that are just sort of a groupthink type belief. And I believe most of them too. I'm not setting myself apart by any means as having a level of insight that no one else has. But what always happens is you get a month or so or 6 weeks into the college football season and you realize, oh, geez, everything we thought all summer and said over and over again all summer was just not close to right. And it's not everything, but there's a few. There will always be a few portions of the narrative of the group think that we are assuming all of the summer that is going to be blown out of the water within the first 6 weeks of the season. So what is and that could apply to the entire college football landscape. That could apply to Nebraska, for instance. Last year, I think we all assumed Jeff Sims would be the starting quarterback for the entire year, right? There would never be a reason to bench him.
Certainly.
We talked about it like that all summer. Most of us did, at least. Kudos to you if you saw that coming down the pike. Or it's about the conference. And I would say, what are those this year? What are the group think assumptions this year? Some of which are bound to be wrong, but that we have basically accepted because we've heard people talk about them in this way, or we've thought about them this way on ourselves. Well, okay, it's a good place to start with the top 25. The thought is that it's going to be either Ohio State or, well, first of all, you got a wider playoff now, but your national championship contenders are going to be probably a group of Georgia, Ohio State, Oregon, and Texas. I think is that fair sort of summary of the group think?
Definitely.
That those four, there may be some outliers who say Alabama or Notre Dame have a shot, but I think you are picking up 95% of people's predictions by saying it's one of those four teams: Georgia, Ohio State, Oregon, and Texas. And frankly, you're probably picking up 75% of it just by saying Georgia and Ohio State this year. So that's one of the group thing. And then the further group think is that you'll probably get another Big Ten team in the play, but it's going to be Ohio State and Oregon in the playoff is the thought. And that
who's the third?
The third is probably Michigan or Penn State, although it could be both potentially. SEC, same thing. Georgia's obviously, and Texas is an obvious, and Alabama and Ole Miss are the two that have a shot of if they get four in, right? Then the sense is it's Florida State from the ACC, that Notre Dame is going to play its way in. I mean, these are all kind of the assumptions right now. The group think is that I think the quarterback from one of these teams, especially the first four that I mentioned, is going to end up being your Heisman winner. Ewers are back. We'll see. But that's kind of the assumption right now that we're going into. And then in the Big Ten, like I said, the thought is the winner of the Ohio State-Oregon game is going to win the conference and probably have a rematch against the team who lost it in that game. While you've got Michigan and Penn State who are fighting for playoff contention, and then a tier right below them. That includes USC, Iowa, Wisconsin. This is the group thing. I'm not saying this is what's going to happen, but I'm just giving you the narrative that I think the vast majority of the college football fan base and the punditry has settled on. And everything I'm saying right now is not going to happen. It's not going to happen. So which thing do you think we have wrong? And then and then you go to Nebraska, football, and the thought is Dylan Raiola is going to come in and the offense is going to have improvement. Although I don't think anybody, if you're looking at, and we're obviously influenced by the local conversations here more than the national conversations here, but nobody's going too nuts about what Nebraska could do this year. It's kind of hey, they're making a bowl game this year. It's going to be positive. It's going to be positive progress. in the Matt Rule era. Quarterback position is going to be a lot better. They'll be good. They'll be better. I would say that, and it's a huge generalization, but I think that kind of encapsulates the nationwide groupthink on Nebraska.
I guess the only thing you said that would make me go, nah, not so fast, buddy, would be that Michigan is going to hang with Penn State in that second tier. Like, I don't think they're going to be awful by any means, but I think Penn State's going to be like a clear-cut third, and Michigan's going to be a clear-cut fourth.
Yeah.
And probably miss the playoff.
Yeah. And that's not that out there either.
Right.
That's not out there either. But something that I just said is going to be blown up. Like, I don't know what it is. Like, and you can think how it happens, right? Michigan comes in and beats Texas, right? In whatever, what is that, week 1 or week 2? Like that, whenever that happens. I don't think that. I'm not predicting that. But that's a way.
Don't put it on the internet that Jack said Michigan.
Right. Don't put it on the internet because if I could have 2 losers in that game, I'd cheer for it.
Big meteor.
Right. Right. I mean, and there's just a whole bunch of those there's going to be upsets and or injuries that are going to change that right off the bat. And when that happens, what fills the void of what's different? If it's not Michigan and Penn State, who are in that kind of second tier behind Ohio State and Oregon. Because I have a hard time thinking of, it's weird. You get into the spot and I have a hard time even thinking of any sort of different outcome than Ohio State and Oregon.
Right.
But
I guess maybe Texas, but
right. But even in the Big Ten as well, like I am taking it for granted, and this is stupid. I'm taking it for granted that one of those teams will have one loss in the conference to the other one, and the other will be 0.
Yep.
That probably isn't going to happen. That probably isn't going to happen. But the question is, where are they getting the L? Where do the upsets that define this whole thing come from? And I mean, I will tell you this: the Big Ten has. I don't think you're going to get this a lot in the future. But the Big Ten has got some non-conference games where there's 2 different types of them. Okay, there are the sort of good on good situation where it's just going to kind of define who these teams are, or there's a chance for another handful of them to make a landscape shifting upset right off the bat this year. What am I talking about? USC playing LSU to start the season. Okay. And by the rankings, that wouldn't be, I guess that would only be what? A 23 over 12. Over 12. I feel like it's a bigger, there's less of that sounds closer than the expectation is. So that would be one. That's week 1. I mentioned Michigan, Texas. There's another opportunity where you're going to be able to define. We're going to see, hey, is this something close to the Michigan of last year, or is Texas head and shoulders above Michigan at this point?
Who's going to be coaching that game?
Who's going to be? Yes, we'll get to that too. That's a good one. I mean, UCLA's at LSU too. Again, I'm not. You wouldn't think conventional wisdom is LSU is going to take out both of those Big Ten teams. We'll see. This is the weirdest one. Still, I still can't believe this game is happening. Alabama coming to Wisconsin on September 14th.
Coming to Wisconsin is the weird part, right? Like,
yes.
Just
yeah.
Never in a million years.
Right. I guess if you ever thought you would have that game, it would be I don't know, a neutral Orleans, site. Yeah, an Atlanta type situation. But you've got that. So again, all of those ones that I just mentioned are chances for one of those Big Ten teams to look better than we thought they were going to be.
And then Alabama has a bye week, and then they play Georgia. Could Alabama be looking past Wisconsin to Georgia?
Is Alabama ever going to schedule a trip like to Wisconsin again, ever?
No.
Never, unless they have to. Oregon has Boise State. Yeah, it's at Oregon. I mean, that's the best I can do for them. They're going to roll. They play at Oregon State too, so you got that. Iowa's got the Iowa State game. So I guess Iowa would probably it's in Iowa City, so that's probably they're probably the favorite there. Penn State goes to West Virginia. on August 31st.
Yeah, like right at the start. Yeah.
Yeah. And that game, Penn State won that game last year. West Virginia looked better than they were expected to last year. I thought they'd have their coach fired, but they're still around. So that's probably their best non-conference test. Northwestern, I don't know. None of those. Illinois is Kansas. So there you go. There's another one. Kansas comes into Illinois. Burt to get things started. They need a little momentum in that program. That'd be a good place to get that. Rutgers goes to Virginia Tech in their best non-conference game this year. Washington has the Apple Cup on September 14th. That'll be weird. Obviously, Nebraska's is Colorado in this whole thing. Ohio State, nothing. Nothing. They're the one so far that I've got to. They got Akron, Western Michigan, and Marshall all at Ohio State. And this isn't Randy Moss's Marshall.
Murderers Row.
Akron, Western Michigan, and Marshall. Maryland doesn't have much either. Virginia.
What if their Akron game gets rained out?
That's a great question. Minnesota, by the way, North Carolina on the Thursday night special that Nebraska was in last year. Michigan State's best non-conference game at Boston College. Indiana's best non-conference game is FIU. Oh, Indiana's going to screw around and have that Nebraska game be for bowl eligibility, the way that looks. So there you go. All right, so we got it. But I ask you the question, it's always worth thinking about, where is the group think wrong this year? What team is the assumption that Ohio State's going to be as good as it is it misplaced? I mean, it doesn't make sense on paper. On paper, everything makes sense right now, but it's not going to last. It just isn't. It never does.
What if the Buckeyes quarterback actually isn't very good?
He might not have started at Kansas State this year.
Yeah.
I don't think he would have started at Kansas State. That's the one thing that that you worry about them. And there's scenarios for all of these, and obviously injuries can come in with all of them as well. But it's exciting. We're talking about
Connor's
games.
wrong and Rutgers isn't good.
See, there's a groupthink one. Ooh, Rutgers is. Do you know how many people I've heard say that to me this year?
Kirk Herbstreit said it.
Come on. That's groupthink. This is exactly what I'm talking about. Somebody, I don't even know who even. I think Greg Schiano started that rumor.
Probably.
And I think now it's game of telephone from Kirk Herbstreit all the way down to Connor.
Mm-hmm.
And by the way, same game with Minnesota last year. I asked people, who's their quarterback? Anybody know? It's Athan again. He transferred from Minnesota to Rutgers.
No way.
Yes, it's Athan.
I didn't know that.
So is that what we're? Yes, Athan Kaliakmanis is Rutgers quarterback again. This is the same game I played with Minnesota last year when I was like, Minnesota's going to be good this year. Who's your quarterback? I don't know. Rutgers are going to be good this year. Who's your quarterback? I don't know. Same guy as last year when you said it about Minnesota. And granted, yeah, they did beat Nebraska, but was a little bit of an issue, so much so that they sent him packing, and Minnesota brought in a guy from New Hampshire who was almost one of the FCS best players of the year.
That's right.
This last year. So I don't know. I'm going out on a limb right now. I am not buying the Rutgers hype. I haven't gone out on a limb yet on any of these groupthink things. There it is. The Rutgers hype is just too easy for people right now. I think it is pure groupthink, and I don't believe. Watch for Rutgers to go down to Virginia Tech in the non-con. Watch for Rutgers to come to Lincoln on homecoming, and I'll say it right now: lose by 2 touchdowns. I said it right now. Nebraska 31, Rutgers 17. That is my first official prediction for the year, and it's a specific score for the Nebraska Rutgers.
Got that
game.
written down. Kyle sends us a tweet. You guys are way off on Bama. They are home and home with Wisconsin, and then home and home with Ohio State in 27-28.
Okay.
Bama's going to continue to make these matchups. They will make playoffs with 8 wins. I don't think schools are going to schedule only cupcake non-cons.
I just thought they wouldn't go on the road
Right.
to do these things, but and I thought maybe there would be a disincentive to do that, but perhaps I'm wrong. Perhaps there becomes more of an incentive to do this whole thing. But these games were all scheduled prior to the current iteration of things, I presume. So, what else we got? Anything else?
No.
All right, I thought you were gonna give me another one there. All right, your thoughts. Call it out now. Where is the groupthink wrong? Beyond our own lack of understanding the Alabama scheduling, where is the groupthink wrong behind that? Make your call, make your bold call now, so when it actually happens in September, in October, you can be like, "Oh, I told you, Georgia wasn't going to be crap this year.
Tried to tell you.
Georgia's not going to do it. This is not the year for Georgia." And then we will remember that you actually did it. So go ahead, shoot us some comments on the YouTube. Hit me up on Twitter or the text line. And I want to hear. Call out the groupthink. That's what we're doing today. All right, we're going to grab a break right now. Connor Happer Show. I'm Jack Mitchell in for Connor Happer. You listen to 1620 The Zone.
Let's get back to the Connor Happer Show on 1620 The Zone.
Here comes the clown. Welcome back, Connor Happer Show. I'm Jack Mitchell in for Connor on this Monday afternoon. Josh, I just saw a headline that Lincoln Electric System is sending crews to Omaha to help get the power back on in Omaha.
We'll take the help.
Yeah.
Wherever we can get it.
Apparently, they're getting some reinforcements in.
Oh,
You're kind of past the time period where the stuff in the freezer is probably done for right now.
My garbage can is full. We cleaned it out this weekend. The fridge and the freezer starting over.
Although there's some, not that I would want to be in that position. There is a little something nice about that too, because you always discover, that you've got some things from like the Obama administration era that are in there.
I definitely kept telling my wife over the weekend. I was like, "No, this is good. We were never going to clean it otherwise. Like this is
right.
We're starting over.
Right.
Like this is a good thing. This is a good thing.
Accentuate the positive."
And she, the one who preps and buys the groceries and pays for them, said, "No, this is not a good thing. Shut up.
Your positive spin on this is not right, nor is it convincing."
Right.
So,
right.
All right. Well,
I tried.
Disappointing to hear that. Well, it sucks. I'm sorry for all the people who are still going through the frustration of that whole thing, or did for a long period of time. I know Lincoln got its final houses without power back on over this last weekend, so that's why they're able to send some people up here. But I know that's still an issue. So.
Still about 19,000 in Douglas County
19,
without.
Wow. Also, a fun thing that I had in the wake of the storm is seeing at one of our local city parks, the largest pile of limbs that the entire one portion of the city has brought there. We've got Mount Limb in Lincoln, and probably in other parts of the state too that were affected by this. So.
They had to close one of the drop sites here over the weekend because it got too full.
No one will be in want of wood chips if they're looking for them.
If you're looking for it
this year.
Yeah.
Nobody's going to have an issue with that. So interesting piece from Athlon Sports. By the way, I didn't know Athlon. I know Athlon does some of this stuff, but it wasn't necessarily the outlet I would have bet on for an investigative piece on Deion Sanders.
No.
Because what do people know Athlon for? Mostly the preseason the magazine, right? Yeah. The preseason magazine. But apparently Steve Corder of Athlon has been doing he's been talking to some people who have been affiliated with the Colorado program. And if you haven't seen this yet, the language in the first couple of paragraphs were particularly interesting. I'm just going to read you kind of his lead on this. We can go through some of the allegations that have been made against the program under Deion Sanders through this piece. But what he said is, there's been a sudden shift in attitude within the Colorado Buffaloes locker room. While the initial hype surrounding Deion Sanders has dwindled, he has brought more than his Louis luggage to Boulder. The urgency to win has increased as the season is expected to be the final one for Shiloh and Shedeur Sanders, along with Travis Hunter. He goes on later in this, talking about his approach to do this, that it has some flaws. And he says the foundation of Coach Prime's Camelot is starting to show cracks. What was portrayed to the public as an outstanding program is missing the mark. Says Sanders seizes the spotlight in front of cameras, but then vanishes until the next media opportunity. Outside of those appearances, it's all about promoting his products and services. The real question for those skeptical of hype is why there's constant turnover within the program. He then quotes a former player who says, "It's like a real-life Grand Theft Auto video game," said an unnamed player. "There are many distractions with fights, guns, and money floating around. The environment is unlike I've come from before." So when I heard that, this is okay. So the thesis of this story is you got Grand Theft Auto going on with fights, guns, and money. This sounds like Barry Switzer's Oklahoma at some points, the way that this is talked about before everything hit the fan with them. So here are the things that were reported in this piece. Let's go through them and sort of think about what the implications could be on this, because I'll step outside of this whole thing for a bit. I first saw this and I was like, whoa. 1 year ago, you know what we were talking about? And it's different in a ton of ways. We were talking about Pat Fitzgerald, remember? That's exactly a year ago,
right? Yeah,
that all that stuff happened. And at first it was one report, then it grew, and then it grew, and then you had pressure, and you had people saying you got to do something about it. And we all know how that ended, with Northwestern having the Big Ten Coach of the Year.
Yeah,
it's unbelievable, but nonetheless. So apparently, at least a portion of these focus on 5-star Cormani McLean. Okay, who was there? I believe he's at Florida now. He's gone, but his experience in Boulder was negative. But the other player, it wasn't Cormani Jones or Cormani McLean who was talking about this. It was another unnamed former player. Former player says Cormani was taking a lot of heat from everyone. At the same time, Coach Prime was saying he was in the doghouse and needed to improve. Cormani was getting bullied by Shiloh Sanders. Apparently, after the Oregon State game, Shiloh slapped him several times, according to this former player, which left Cormani screaming, "I'm going to kill you." After that, he wasn't mentally there. And he basically said, look, all of this started to add up, and that was an issue. Then, apparently, the former player also said another 5-star recruit was bullied into proving his manhood and was picked to fight former Colorado lineman Savion Washington. And they had the fight, according to this source in this story, and they exchanged blows, leaving both of them bloody. Witnesses described it as two bears scrapping for food. And then the story goes on to say, but it wasn't just bullying, it was also gambling debts. The backup quarterback, Colton Allen, and wide receiver Caleb Mathis, who, by the way, is the son of Kevin Mathis, who's Colorado's defensive backs coach, was apparently asked to pay the quarterback Allen over a gambling debt in excess of $10,000.
Whoa.
According to a former Colorado player. Mathis refuses, the wide receiver refuses, and he proceeded to punch Allen repeatedly in the locker room with players and coaches witnessing the assault. Allen didn't want to discuss it, fearing repercussions because Mathis had close connections to Prime's coaching staff. Allen's father also denied comments. So we got the fights, we got the bullying fights, we got the gambling fights. And then you also had a citation of a Colorado commit who was arrested for allegedly threatening a girl with a gun 6 months before he was charged with misdemeanor battery stemming from an incident last year. We talked about some witness reports on that one. And then another Colorado, somehow missed this, but another Colorado player announced his commitment, Chidozie Nwankwo, and he had a Glock on the table as he celebrated live with Prime on a live stream during that.
I do remember this. We were talking about it the day it happened, and Connor and I didn't notice it, and someone else said, hey, there's a gun in that photograph that they're using to say that this kid committed to Colorado.
Right. And then now here's where the writer is like a little bit, I feel like he's no pun intended, fishing a little bit. Because he says this, in fact, Prime and his staff took players up into the mountains for a retreat this offseason. The theme was to bond over fishing and shooting guns at the range. Okay. I mean, stop. Okay. I feel like you're grasping at straws with that. Here I am defending Prime in Colorado, at least for that portion of this whole thing. Then he goes in to say, hey, this is about Prime's leadership style. The desire for instant success is understandable. The associated instability and violence reveal deeper issues within the program. So there you go. I mean, so he's citing two incidents where there were fights, either that broke out or almost broke out or were set up. You had one where you had a gambling debt that started a fight as well. Okay. You've got a recruit who got in trouble. You got the gun on the thing. Engaging of whether or not this thing blows up into something bigger, because you kind of feel like that now whenever. Don't you remember how on edge everybody was about what the the next thing like Northwestern that could come out. There were rumors that something was going to come out about PJ Fleck last year at this time, and that piece did come out about PJ Fleck, and it was about Fleck Bucks and all that stuff. And everyone thought, wow, something comes out about him, the same thing's going to happen. And all of a sudden, the momentum's going to build, and they're going to have to get rid of him. Well, that never happened, obviously, with PJ Fleck, and it wasn't as damning, obviously, as some of the stuff that happened with Pat Fitzgerald. Is any of that going to happen here with this thing? Are there going to be voices within Colorado who are like, hey, got some bad stuff going on here?
You're going to have, theoretically, you're going to have Colorado, again, not live up to expectations, whatever those expectations may be. The best players Colorado has are going to go pro. Deion's kids aren't going to be there anymore. So it's going to be a situation where both sides probably want.
Yeah. Like, can you imagine a scenario where it doesn't go particularly well this year, that everybody's running it back in year 3? It's really hard to imagine.
Yeah, no.
I mean, with both of his sons gone, Travis Hunter probably gone, I assume, at that point to go play defensive back in the NFL. And another season. This is assuming that the season is not one that's particularly successful. I mean, I think everybody is going to. At some point, it'll probably exhaust everyone. I think
we tried and it didn't work. We're ready. Even if they win 6 games, what's returning for them wouldn't be anything that you would be excited about. Like, hey, won 6 games last year with some of the best players we've ever had.
Right.
Year 3 of Deion's going to be great. Like, well, no, you're theoretically going to get worse.
Yeah. I don't really think the stuff, look, I mean, none of it, I'm not justifying or defending any little bit of it, but I don't think this stuff is going to rise to the level of reaction where it just keeps building and building and building like it did on Pat Fitzgerald, because there were some other overtones that went along with that, I think, that are different here. I mean, in the end, you've got fights happening in a locker room, right? You've got somebody that they recruited that's got in some pretty bad trouble with the law. Those things, unfortunately, are not super unique. Some of the stuff that was happening with Northwestern, at least reading it, it felt pretty unique in a super weird way. I don't know that I read anything here that really feels like that. And again, not to say that any of it is good or it's happening everywhere here at this point, but I wondered if this was going to ramp up a level where pressure starts building on Deion. And unless there's something new with this, I would be a little bit surprised if that actually happened. That said, I don't question that whatever's happening there is got to be just a weird cultural situation.
Got to be super
within
weird,
that program. Yeah. I mean, all of the different angles of it, with Deion sort of doing his doing his thing as well, and then there was a video that came out the other day that had talked to him about. He was like, "Hey, don't touch Sanders, don't touch my son during the practice, don't touch Travis Hunter, those sorts of things." And he was like, "You may think I'm playing favorites, but when you get to the NFL, these quarterbacks are worth, $250 million, so that you're going to hear that all through your entire life." So it just makes you wonder how they'll withstand adversity, I guess, is the big question.
For what it's worth, Cormani McLean has said not true.
Oh, interesting.
He tweeted a screenshot of the article, said not true, false alarm. Then there's an Instagram comment right next to it, underneath it, that says it's got the cap emoji. So I would assume
yes,
they're accusing them of capping.
Yeah, that's cap, and it's all it's a former player who's the source on this thing, an unnamed former player, as far as I can tell, on all of the things that feature the locker room fights, the 3 different locker room fights that are cited, but. Taking the team on a fishing and shooting trip up in the mountains. Come on. Like that raised a little bit of a red flag in the whole story for me, a little bit. It felt like you were trying to put together a theory where you were
I need one
gathering.
more. I need
one more little bit of evidence. That felt like a big stretch in this whole thing.
Definitely.
So there you go. That is that's the latest at Colorado. Hey, if nothing else, man, it is going to be interesting again. And even if it wasn't wildly successful in wins and losses, I think there's still going to be a whole lot of people who are interested in seeing those games. Here's it, and I know I got to take a break, but here's a really interesting question. What are you cheering for on that first Thursday night of the season when Colorado plays North Dakota State? That is a true head and heart situation for me.
Such an interesting game.
And because there is such a part of me that would just love nothing more. That would just love nothing more for obvious reasons for North Dakota State. Got a lot of local kids playing for them too, to pull that off. But don't you really want that Saturday night in Lincoln to be the ultimate moment, to have the ultimate hype around it? Like, I don't know. I'm curious how you guys will handle that. It's going to be straight up head versus heart. And the heart will probably end up winning. And if North Dakota State is somehow doing well, I'll be all in on the Bison.
Depends on where that game's at with about 7.5 minutes to go in the third quarter.
It's a good call. It's a good call. All right, we'll grab a break. I'm Jack Mitchell in for Connor Happer. You're listening to 1620 The Zone. Welcome back, Connor Happer Show. Jack Mitchell in for Connor. Josh and I watching some Olympics. Gonna miss this when it's done during the middle of the day. Having some live sports on just to glance up at.
Every now and then we get a Tigers baseball game.
Oh, there you go. Got that too. Yeah.
So got nice to go back to the Tigers, I guess.
I suppose. We're watching, looks like a little pole vault right now in the Olympics. But of course, the talk of yesterday's events is still that men's 100 meter. And I was watching it live. Were you watching it live too? I was looking for. I wanted to make sure and see that whole thing, and of course it was completely epic, ridiculous. Everything about. By the way, the amount of photos that exist now on the internet of various angles. I've seen the pure overhead picture. I've seen the one where they took a picture every like 1 second or like every step, the entire thing, and superimposed everyone all the way up and down. I mean, I've seen every single part of it. But watching it live, the one thing I was bummed about was in the moment live, I was so confused as to what had happened because of the way that the call went on it and just my own inability to visually be able to account for 5/1000ths of a second. It didn't quite have that moment that it could have had and should have had as a TV sporting event.
Little quick to crown Jamaica, and then not very clear on. We have a photo finish. We were looking at the replay. It took Mike Tirico after all of that to go, it's not the foot that matters. It's the clavicle. Yes. It's the torso where now I understand that in the moment they didn't have the photo to go to and say, this is the photo finish, but they could have done a better job at explaining like the rules of track.
Apparently they edited it for prime time. And so what you saw at prime time was different. But for those who are watching live, like we were, the first thing, and Lee Diffie was doing the call, the first thing he said is Thompson from Jamaica had won. Mm-hmm. And then it was just like dead silence.
Yeah, he didn't even back off it and say,
dead silence. So you're just watching them. And Thompson is looking up at what I assume was the scoreboard that was going to post times or a photo or something. He reacts. He's sort of like yelling like he wants to see something. And then all of a sudden, very shortly after, Noah Lyles reacts like he saw something, and he takes his name tag off, and Lyles holds it in the air right away, and the announcer doesn't say a thing. We don't have a scoreboard, right? We don't have times. We don't have a photo. We don't know what they're looking at on the scoreboard, and the announcer isn't saying anything. And I bet Lyles for, I don't think I'm exaggerating when I say 15, maybe 20 seconds. 20 seconds started to go on what looked like a victory tour. And as the viewer, you were like, well, he must have found out he won, but is there even anything official?
He seems very excited about what he's just been told.
I was like, how do you not have something something you're putting on the screen that says he's the winner, gives us the time to verbally tell us? Lee Diffie did tweet out this morning and said the men's 100 was epic and closest of all time. My eyes and instinct told me Kashane Thompson won. Obviously, that wasn't the case. I shouldn't have been so bold to call it, but I genuinely thought he won. I got it wrong. I'm thrilled for Noah Lyles as his story only gets bigger. I don't blame him, by the way, for that situation.
Right. I'm not mad at him. It's not like when we come on Monday after a football game and like, oh, that Tony Romo's an idiot.
Right.
Like, that's not what this is.
I don't blame him, at least for the live call, because I didn't think Lyles. I honestly, here's how bad my eyes were. I didn't even know if he was in the top 3.
Yeah,
and he won
the same thing I thought. Yep.
It was that tight. But then for them just to say nothing while all of that was happening and not give you any visual other than here are these guys I don't know if they were stepping back on purpose, or I don't know if they legitimately had no idea what was happening. I'm not sure where they're at even.
It's probably a combination of all those things, right? Like they didn't know what was happening, so they didn't have anything to say. They feel like maybe they messed up the call, so they're like, okay, I'm going to stand back until I absolutely know what's happening. And maybe before the race, NBC told them, if Noah Lyles wins, just let the moment breatve.
Yeah,
and he won. So,
but he just tell us for sure that he did, because I've now been trained by a couple of decades of watching instant replay in sports to never treat anything as final. And by the way, spoiler alert, I won't get into the details, but if you watch gymnastics tonight, you'll learn that to be the case too.
Okay.
Yeah.
I only know the result. I don't know what.
Yeah. So I still didn't, until the announcer said something, I wasn't sure what Lyles knew or if he really knew it in the way that he was celebrating. And it's just like that whole lack of being sure about exactly what happened as a viewer at that time. It was kind of a bummer because it took away from this moment that otherwise was so incredible and obviously still is, but I just wish it had been explain. Let me the desire I had to see a scoreboard in times or something visual in that moment. I'm yelling at the TV. Like, what's going on?
What's happening?
I have high demands apparently when I watch the rare moments that I actually watch track and field.
Well, I mean, we're so accustomed to having a score bug there that when we don't have one, we're utterly lost.
Well, and it's because you watch the swimming, and right away, as soon as the little flag comes up, 1, 2, 3,
1, 2, 3.
with their time immediately, and I'm like, where is this for track? So, anyway, but cool moment overall, and we move to the away from the swimming stuff that's done, and into track. As we have this Olympics feels like it's been going on a long time. We still have another full week of this.
Yeah,
thing
another
almost.
full week.
Yeah. Well, anyway, it's nice to have.
Love it.
Nice to have while we count down to football season. All right, we'll take a break. We got Sam McKewon joining us from the Omaha World-Herald coming up after that break. It's the Connor Happer Show. Jack Mitchell in for Connor on 1620 The Zone. Welcome back to the Connor Happer Show. I'm Jack Mitchell. I'm not Connor. I believe 2 weeks from today, you'll get Connor back.
That is correct.
2 weeks. 2 weeks
Looking
from
at my
today.
schedule. Many podcasts that he hosts already have him back, which is interesting.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Of those 10 days, I will be with you 40% of them.
Hey.
4 of the next 10 I've got.
Great hit rate.
Couple this week, couple next week. So hopefully you've enjoyed it. I've spread them out though for endurance sake, right? So since I'm the 7 hours of radio in a row, I can't do that every single day. I'm not some sort of endurance runner for radio. Let's get to Sam McKewon. He joins us right now. Excited to. I don't get a chance to talk to Sam all that much, so I'm excited to get him on here. I'd read him a lot, but don't talk to him. Good morning. Good morning. I'm still having old radio habits. I can't do this. It's 1 PM. I'm not usually on the radio now. Good afternoon, Sam. How you doing today?
Good, man. How are you doing, Jack?
good. I'm good. Got all your limbs cleaned up?
Yeah, we did. We did. We got it done. Like, I think we were more fortunate than a lot of people. You know, I have colleagues who are still without power in Omaha. And so, you know, Lincoln got hit hard, but, you know, I feel like power is restored in a lot of places. So yeah, we got them cleaned up. It's okay.
And no one will want for free wood chips this year, which is very good. If they do it. Yeah.
That's right.
What did you think of the event as a whole on Saturday night? Was it what you expected? Did you like it as an event?
I thought it was good. Yeah. I thought, you know, they gave the fans who showed up a little extra in terms of, you know, hearing from the coaches and, you know, hearing from, a parent. I thought that was kind of cool. McGahee's mom and dad kind of talked, which I thought was neat. And so it was kind of a promotional event, but it was also a little bit of, you know, a picture of what a practice looks like. It was a legitimate practice. It wasn't a joke practice. They did stuff. They looked like they were, you know, in the middle of it. About the only thing people didn't get was a fight. So, you know, I think they did a nice job though. And, you know, people who went certainly saw different things from the Nebraska offense than maybe they would have seen last year. I mean, it's a different looking group and a better looking group, to be honest with you.
Yeah. And obviously the first thing I wasn't there, but that same night I talked to people who were there. And of course, the first thing I asked them, like probably happens with you and everyone you talk to as well, is how did Dylan Raiola look? So I'll ask you the question. How did Dylan Raiola look?
I thought he looked pretty good. He kept the ball out of harm's way at times, which I thought was really important. You know, he goes through his reads thoughtfully. You know, he's pretty quiet in the pocket, so his feet are not all over the place and not a lot of exaggerated movements. I thought he did a nice job though of getting the ball out. I think there's just, and I've said this to a couple different people, he's just going to have to continue to work on every single throw and every single rep just being urgent and consistent from a mechanic standpoint. And I don't even really mean the throwing motion. I think you could do a lot of things with arm slots, and he knows what he can do with his arm slots. And so, you know, Mahomes does a lot of that stuff too, but the footwork's got to be what it's got to be. And they do a lot of drill work to, you know, for what you would call off platform throws, which is where you're running around, but also what you're doing when you're anchored, you know, down in the pocket. And he's got all the components and the tools. It's just a question of, hey, you know, put your foot toward the target, deliver, you know, put that thing in the spot. There's all kinds of lingo that's used these days. Drop in the bucket, throw a dot. You know, there's all kinds of things that he understands that they'll get better with him on. And some of those things you can't really learn until you start playing football games at the collegiate level.
Are you curious at all? Maybe you feel like you know, but are you curious at all what his sort of in-game demeanor is going to be like as a quarterback? You see a variety of different personalities kind of come out at quarterback. And I feel like I know a little about his, but not a lot. And it's not that I've watched a ton of high school game film. Maybe that would give me some answers, but are you curious about that at all?
Absolutely, I am. Yeah. And, you know, I'm curious to see what happens when things don't go right.
Mm-hmm.
Right. Like how it looks when you're down 14 at Ohio State, or you're tied with Iowa, or you're tied with Wisconsin. How you handle those moments. Now, over the years, we've seen a lot of different kind of quarterback reactions. I mean, Taylor Martinez had virtually no reaction when he would come off the field. Tommy Armstrong was full of fire.
Mm-hmm.
So and I think that actually helped his team win games, is they would respond and react to that. Adrian was pretty quiet. Like, he would come off and, you know, whatever. So, you know, we'll see with Dylan, you know, what he's like and how he enjoys success. He celebrates in a way that I think is fun loving. And, you know, he's not just a trot off the field guy or a, hey, nice job, hit you on the helmet. He wants to go down there and have fun. So I do think his teammates will respond to that, but absolutely, I'm curious to see how he manages tough stuff in the middle of games against defenses that are better than any he's ever faced.
Sam McKewon joining us here on the Connor Happer Show. Jack Mitchell in for Connor Happer. I heard Matt Rule before the game talking to you guys about the defensive backfield and suggesting that you might have some guys who we think of now, I think as safeties or nickelbacks, maybe playing corner. And maybe this is a bit of a trend around the country, but when he talked about positionless football, I kind of thought about the offense first, but it sounds like that's kind of we shouldn't make any assumptions about who is or who might not be available to actually play cornerback, because it sounds like it could be almost anybody in that defensive backfield.
It could. I think it's hard to find really good corners, and when you do, you basically leave them out on the field for the whole game. So Quentin Newsom, I think, led the defense in snaps on the defense. I think Bryce Benhart led it on the offense, because you don't usually pull your tackles out unless you have to. So a lot of times you want to have two corners, like two really good ones. Maybe you'll play three, and your third one is the guy that you bring down in the slot or whatever. They have one in Tommy, and they felt like Bly Hill was going to be their second guy. Bly's got a lot of talent. And so when he got banged up, they go out and they get Sayer Wright. People say his first name differently, but we'll go with Sayer.
Okay.
They went out and got Sayer Wright, and now they're going to look at Hartzog, although they seem to want Hartzog at safety.
Yeah.
Marquise Buford's going to rotate down and play corner. So they got some young guys that they want to give a chance. Mario Buford's probably going to be a corner. Mari Sanders might be a corner. But some of this is brand new because John Butler is there. And John Butler, in terms of what he understands about that position, is a 400 level understanding. You know, he coached a long time in the NFL, so he understands things that, you know, other people don't. And so he's going to have to make an assessment of what they have there and make some decisions about, okay, here's what I want. Here's who I want. He knows what a really good corner does and what a really good corner is. And, you know, he'll make his own assessments. I think Marquise Buford can play corner because he's really smart and he can play any position on that defense, in terms of the defensive backfield. So they may be putting him there for that reason, kind of a DiCaprio Boodle kind of thing. Buford's probably the smartest guy on the defense. We're very close to it, him and Gifford, and Boodle was the same. And so they may put Buford there because they know he can do it. He's undersized, which means you can be a liability deep, and Bly Hill would not be a liability deep. You're not going to throw it over Bly because he's 6'3". Where taller corners or liabilities are in short area, and Buford will be good there. So I don't know what they're going to do. We'll have to find out as the season goes on.
It's just interesting because you got Buford with a lot of starts at safety. You got Hartzog with a lot of starts at corner over the year.
Yeah.
And they almost are flip-flopping. I guess Hartzog technically a nickelback, but in a bit of a safety position. It's a lot of, I'm not saying it's the wrong decision to do that, but it really shows you, boy, you played a couple of years with these guys in places where they may not end up actually at the end of their careers with Nebraska.
No question. And maybe we'll ask Butler about some of this stuff tomorrow. Again, he could probably talk for 3 hours and give you a dissertation on body types and who goes where. And what I'll say about Hartzog, and I really like him at corner too, is again, he's undersized. And so the very first game he started against Rutgers, they hit 2 over.
Yeah.
2 deep ones. And I think he got a PI too. Now, later in that game, he made some plays. But, you know, if you put Jamal Banks against Malcolm Hartzog and you just throw that ball in the right spot, it's going to be hard for Malcolm to win.
Mm-hmm.
So you have to dedicate some safety coverage over the top and all kinds of stuff. Like there's all kinds of things that you can do. I've always been, and again, I'm not a coach or a former player. I've always liked a smaller corner because I don't really think most college quarterbacks are, can hit all those deep balls. And so, you'll live with a smaller guy like a Baron Miles because he's physical, from 0 to 10 yards. And I think that's important, but they've gone away from that. You see more and more teams going to the 6'2", 6'3" corner and saying, you're not throwing over the guy. So you're going to have to nickel and dime him short and those things. And so that's probably what Nebraska's going to do. And Butler will have more insight than I would ever have. So he'll enlighten people. He knows a ton. I don't know how much he's going to say tomorrow. He probably wants to come in and be modest, but again, Evan Cooper was a really good coach. Sean Butler is on a whole different level. When you've spent 10 years in the NFL and you faced Patrick Mahomes and you've watched Josh Allen in practice and Jamar Chase and Justin Jefferson, he knows everything there is to know about that stuff. And I'll be curious how much he imparts to us tomorrow.
Were we surprised to see Turner Corcoran working with the first team instead of Prohaska, or surprised to see him still at tackle, I guess, even at that point, speaking of positionless football?
I did. I was. Yep. I was surprised. That doesn't mean that I don't think Turner's a good lineman. I think Turner's going to play in the NFL and has the most potential of all of the linemen on the team. I think that was true. I mean, Greg Austin, when he was the coach here, told everybody that. Incidentally, Greg Austin was also a huge fan of Henry Lutovsky, who's banged up right now. But he was like, yeah, Turner's, he's going to be an NFL player. And I think everybody agrees. Whether he's going to do that at tackle or interior guard, I don't know. I suspect that his elevation at left tackle has more to do with Micah Mazuka and Justin Evans at guard, and Henry at guard.
Okay.
These are some butt kickers. I mean, and Justin Evans is a little short, but again, you're seeing the short linemen in the NFL become kind of vogue again. Like it's okay if you're 6'1" or 6'2", but you can move, because some of the defensive linemen that you're facing, I bring up Aaron Donald, he's the best of all time, but other guys too are short as well. And so what they've found is, well, these little 6 foot, 287 pound nose tackles like Donald are just getting into the pads of these giant linemen. So you got to come out there with a guy who's kind of like a wrestler too. And so Evans, I think, is good, and Mazuka's, if you ask the other players on the team about Mazuka, they're like, yeah, that guy's really good. So it could have something to do with that. Corcoran's a good lineman. He and Prohaska will probably go back and forth. Wouldn't surprise me if they both play quite a bit. I mean, I was surprised though. I thought it'd be Teddy for sure.
Yeah. Is there any reason to believe, or have you seen anything or heard anything that indicates that one of these running backs is going to kind of pull out ahead of the other ones and be as close, I guess, as you could have to anything like a bell cow? Or do you feel like, hey, you're probably going to see 2, maybe 3 of them almost the same amount through the course of the season?
The latter.
Yeah.
I think that's probably the direction it's going. And I don't think that's a knock on anybody in that room. I think they want to try to spread the wealth. I will say that if Gabe Irvin's healthy, he can become your hammer in the fourth quarter in a way that maybe Emmett Johnson or Ramir Johnson wouldn't be. So one thing that'd be interesting to see is, Emmett sort of starts the game. Ramir comes in, as a curveball, and then you bring in your closer, and your closer's Gabe Irvin, and, he's knocking people over. Emmett's bulked up a little bit, so maybe he can fill that role. And he had some nice fourth quarter runs last season, but, I think it's probably going to be a committee approach, and I don't know. They're probably middle of the pack in the league. Not the top. I mean, Ohio State's number 1, but, they're middle of the pack. They're not bad. Mm-hmm. And I think that's where you live with. I'll say this. I think the receivers are higher than middle of the pack. Based on what I'm seeing or what I saw, what I've heard, they could be top 7, top 6. And that would be a huge, huge thing for Nebraska, because last year they were probably 13th or 14th with all the injuries, but this year they could be, way up there. And I mean, Carter Nelson did not catch the ball. He needs to catch the ball.
Mm-hmm.
But he was open a lot, and it wasn't because they lost. It's because he beat guys. Like, he's quick. He's quicker than I think I realized, and so he got open 4 or 5 times where it's like guys are trying to cover him, and he's got a step and a half within 15 yards. That's a player. Now he's got to grab it, but he'll grab it, and so he's a weapon. He's a threat.
Who's the biggest catalyst for you saying you've seen that big of a jump from last year to this year in that receiving core? Which is it? Is it Banks? Is it Nior? Is it something else?
Both of those guys. I thought Malachi looked good on Saturday. He's gained weight, so he's up to 215. I think he's probably still. We can ask him this, but I think he's maybe still working into his stride at 215 versus 185 or 190. But he really looks good. So I think that's going to be a factor. I think Jalen Lloyd being a year older, and then Garcia Castaneda coming back. He's a good player.
Yeah.
And so
forget that
he'll
one.
help them.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like he won't have like 60 catches, but he might have 15 to 20. And Banks might have 45 to 50. It's just a way better unit. than it was really at any time last year, but definitely after Garcia Castaneda got hurt. Because once he got hurt, yeah, Marcus Washington was playing, but they were basically running 5 guys, and then Washington got hurt and they were running 4.
Yep.
So this year they could run 8 or 9, and I think they're going to be much better at that position than they were last year.
All right, last one for you before I let you go. It's great information, so I'm really enjoying picking your brain on all of this. Sam McKewon joining us on the Connor Happer Show. Special teams. It seems like the concerns in the different areas of special teams are all a little bit different. At kicker, you've got maybe a player that was inconsistent, but he's injured right now, right? And it's who else is on the roster. Buschini's healthy, but it seems like he's regressed a little bit since he came in originally, if you're being completely honest and true with the whole thing. And then in the return game, they didn't have the people last year. They were looking to see who ran kicks back in high school, and they had to be so conservative. It was just about mistake avoidance. And so I guess in all 3 of those areas, you've got a little bit of a concern, but it combines to one larger concern about special teams. How do you break down each one of those issues with special teams going into the season?
Kicker's up in the air with Alvano banged up, and the other 2 guys in camp, they, in practice, they made some kicks, but that's kind of like a golfer. You just don't really know until you put them out on the course and put them, you put a wedge in their hand and you tell them to put the ball within a certain spot. And Alvano's going to have to do that coming back from a groin injury, and the other 2 guys are going to have to do it on a stage they've never done it before. The key to being good at kicking is recruiting a really good kicker. So I think they have that in Alvano, but he has to show that. The punting piece, I think that, one, you got a new long snapper, and so that's going to take some adjustment. And 2, I think if you just told Brian Buschini, hey man, we just want you to kick it as far as you can, and if you kick it straight, so be it. But that's not what punting is anymore.
No.
Punting is now, it's 43 yards and 4 feet from the left sideline. That's how that all works now. And so, just getting better there. I think you could have told Caleb Lightbourne the same thing, and said, hey, just kick the ball 70 yards straight. We'll go down and cover it. And if they get 15 yards on the return, we'll live with it. I think he probably could have done that. I think where he struggled was with the directional piece. And I think that's part of what's going on with Buschini. At returner, I think Ja'Cory Barney is going to be and Ramir are going to be high level kick returners. At punt returner, I don't know. Could be Garcia Castaneda. It could be Barney. It could be Zaire Wright. It could be a bunch of different guys. But the Big Ten has so many good punters that really what you're trying to do is make sure you're fielding the ball, and then if you get lucky enough to make a run, then you make a run. But I think Nebraska will be good in punt returns in terms of maybe blocking a punt or 2. I think that's where they'll try to make hay with their punt return.
All right. Well, they got. Hopefully, they're not looking for people halfway through the season this year like they were last year, and like I said, it turned into mistake avoidance, and I don't think you can underestimate how impactful. This is such a cliche, but man, it's a game or 2 every year, right? With the special teams, for sure, for sure. All right, hey Sam, great to talk to you. I love the insight. I appreciate it. Enjoy talking to you, and hopefully I'll be back here next Monday. So hopefully we can do it again then. All right.
Let's do it then. Take care.
There you go. Sam McKewon, Omaha World-Herald. All right, there you go. Take a break. 1:23 in the afternoon. You're listening to the Connor Happer Show. I'm Jack Mitchell, in for Connor. Back after this on 1620 The Zone. just watching the teaser, the trailer. What's the difference between a teaser and a trailer?
Teaser's usually shorter than a trailer.
All right. Well, this was whichever of those came along with the ESPN tweet. The Nebraska volleyball documentary is going to drop August 25th at 4 o'clock on ESPN. The tweet says the 2023 Nebraska volleyball team started the year by rewriting history, but that was only the beginning of the journey. It's going to be interesting to watch it because it really, judging from the teaser / trailer, it looks like it focuses on sort of the journey, like they said, of last year all the way up to the end, which, spoiler alert, has a very sad ending.
Oh no, I was getting through them.
Josh had DVR'd the entire season last year of Nebraska volleyball, and he was only in like October.
Yeah,
so
I like to binge it. I don't like waiting week to week, like you suckers.
that would be something. Like a sport that you really like. Just skip an entire season one year and then binge it over the course of a week.
Yeah,
from like week 1 to week 0. It'd be a fascinating way to take a sports season like we do a series of anything else, right?
Like I'm so focused on college football, I'm going to completely block out the NFL.
Right.
And during the summer, when I'm looking for content, I just binge the NFL.
And then one weekend in July, and everywhere you go, you're like, hey, don't spoil it. I still haven't watched it. I haven't watched it. I haven't watched the 2024 NFL season in its entirety. Okay.
Don't tell me who won the Super Bowl.
Right. I gotta have a big weekend in July. I'm gonna get a lot of like popcorn and ice cream, and I'm just gonna knock it out. I'm just gonna knock it out in one weekend.
Just got a couple left. I think I can finish it.
That's yeah. So anyway, that'll be coming up August 25th. Trying to figure out what they've got their first match, I should say. We call it match in volleyball.
We do.
Please. On Tuesday. So that's on Sunday. Right. Sunday will be the August 25th. And then August 27th is that first match of the year. So something to look forward. I know we're counted down, Josh. We are getting to the point we hit the milestone of we got NFL preseason kicked off, even though they couldn't actually finish the game last Thursday. Starting this weekend, we've got the full NFL preseason schedule. And again, I'm not necessarily having all my rowdy friends over for a preseason game, but it's a step along the way. It means that there's football on the TV, right? And you've got it usually Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday during those weekends. So we'll have that this weekend. We got 2 weeks. Here's how to think of it. We got 2 weekends of that, just NFL preseason football. And then we're in week 0. Before you know it, 3 weeks from yesterday, or I guess if you want to look at it, 2 weeks from this coming Saturday, we're there.
We're good. Yeah.
We are there in week 0, and all of a sudden we are watching the Aer Lingus Classic this year. Who could forget?
Georgia Tech, Florida State.
11 a.m. Set the alarm, Saturday, August 24th. Your week 0 lineup 2 weeks from Saturday. It sounds so sweet.
It really does.
2 weeks from Saturday? I feel like there's another week in there that I missed. It's actually going fast. Florida State at Georgia Tech. We've got the rest of them, maybe not so. We got SMU at Nevada. That's your only other game on week 0 between 2 FBS schools. The rest of them are all matching up. FCS for sale. Yeah, Montana State at New Mexico. Montana State's a good program, so that could be somewhat interesting. And then at late night, Delaware State at Hawaii in one of the most amazing travel scenarios anyone's ever had to do with Delaware State at Hawaii there. That's an 11 p.m. Central kickoff on week 0.
I love when somebody tweets out that Spectrum pay-per-view link every Saturday night.
There it is.
Well, I didn't think I was going to watch Hawaii tonight, but there it is right in front of me.
But here I am. And then, of course, 3 weeks from this Saturday, well, let's even take it back shorter than that. 3 weeks from Thursday, So 3 weeks from the day after tomorrow will be the first more significant night of college football with the Thursday night games that evening, featuring, among others, North Carolina at Minnesota and North Dakota State at Colorado, both at 7 o'clock that night. You also have Howard at Rutgers. So
Kansas hosts Lindenwood.
Kansas and Lindenwood that evening as well. Your two headliners that night are pretty clearly both at Minnesota and the Colorado game. So North Carolina at Minnesota. Minnesota always seems like plays on Thursday nights, including last year for the first one of the year. And again, I go back to that North Dakota State Colorado game. I don't know how I will react when winning that game. And I'm done acting like I know anything about Colorado and how they'll do either. That's part of the deal with this game coming up with Nebraska Colorado, game 2 of the year. I realized last year that I didn't know squat about Colorado. Okay. I thought I did. I didn't. and I also didn't after the season was halfway over. I also didn't after the Nebraska game. I didn't after the TCU game. I never did. I never got a good feel, for exactly what they were. And then they've changed out huge swaths of their team for this coming year. They've tried to portal an offensive line for the most part. The defense looks really different. Here's what I know about them. Shedeur is good. Shedeur is good to very good. Travis Hunter is very good. I do continue to wonder if he's going to have the durability to keep doing it both ways the entire season, and if they're going to at some point design to back that up. But I don't think it'll be before the time Nebraska plays them, obviously. And they've got a really good wide receiver core that's going to challenge Nebraska's secondary, combined with Shedeur. But beyond that, I don't know squat, and I am not afraid to admit that. So all that to say, when they play North Dakota State, who has historically been in a very good FCS squad, I assume anything can happen in that game. This is normal.
Absolutely.
There's always FCS and having no idea exactly where Colorado really is and having not a great idea of where North Dakota State really is this year as well. It feels like anything is possible on that night. And I do mean all the way from a Colorado blowout to the wheels falling off for Colorado in that game. And as I said earlier in the show, that's going to be a major head versus heart situation there with North Dakota State and Colorado, because there's no way I can look at that screen and physically see North Dakota State beating Colorado and not enjoy it down in the cockles of my heart.
Right.
Without a doubt. But really, what I really want is for Nebraska, Colorado to have everything on the line, to be hyped up as much as possible, be as fun as possible if it goes well. That's probably really what I want. To have it to be as impactful of a win for Nebraska as it can possibly be, especially on the stage that it's going to be on. But there's no way. As you said earlier, when we get down to about like 3 minutes in the third quarter, and that's a close game, if that would happen with North Dakota State and Colorado, it's all Bison. I won't allow. I just won't be able to go against my.
If there's a glimmer of hope for North Dakota State, I'm going to start pulling for them pretty hard.
Yes. One other thing I wanted to get to real quickly here. I thought this was interesting, and we're not going to delve super far into it, but you ought to take a look and listen to this whole thing. Awful announcing in honor of the NBA going back to NBC and the NBA on NBC theme, which, by the way, if you haven't watched John Tesh do that live in the 90s, it is legitimately maybe the best video on all of YouTube. Make sure and find that, where he's doing it live at Red Rocks, and he holds up the answering machine where he called his own phone and recorded the message of himself doing it. But in honor of that, Awful Announcing last weekend put out a list of what they believe to be the best 25 sports themes of all time. And this is in honor of Round Ball Rock. So I wanted to real quickly, we're not going to play them, but we're going to go through and we're going to see how many of these we just know off of hearing the title. Because I think that's a good test.
Oh, just the
on
title.
How much it stood
wow.
or where it came from.
Uh-huh.
Now it might have been because it's too old that you don't totally remember it. Okay. So number one, we definitely know. And that some of these are like instrumental and some of these are actually the like a theme song. So number 25, is this too low for Sunday Night Football? Waiting all day for Sunday night?
Oh, wow.
I mean, I think I don't have to sing that one for you. We all know that one. Which
far too low.
Far too low for that one. All right. Number 24 is the NBA on ESPN song from the 2010s. I played this earlier. I recognize it. I would have never been able to, though, to come up with it on my own.
Okay, right. Yeah, because right now I'm a little puzzled, little lost.
Yeah, if you knew it, if you heard it, you would know it.
Sure.
But to me, that's a sign of not a great song. Not a great theme song. 2010 World Cup on ESPN was number 3. The 1980 NFL on NBC theme. I don't know if I would know that one for sure. Wimbledon on NBC is 21. I'm sure I've heard it.
Yeah,
I wouldn't know it.
That's probably one where I would recognize it if I heard it.
Now, here we go. 20 is Baseball Tonight on ESPN. I'll do that one. And they did a good thing because they did the updates and they used a little thing of the song. That was very smart.
A little stinger.
Now, number 19 is the Hockey Night Hockey Night in Canada. I don't live in Canada, so I didn't see that. Major League Baseball on Fox is 18. Heard it a million times. I'm not sure I can hum it.
Which one? What? I'm sorry.
MLB on Fox. I've obviously heard it during postseason. Bum, bum, bum. No, I don't know that I can do it. Then just going back some of the other ones that I definitely remember. They got some old timey ones that I probably don't remember. The ABC college football one in the 90s that sounded kind of marching bandy. That definitely is a big one. The instrumental Sunday night theme. Bum, ba-da-da-da. Dun dun da 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 da. Yeah. Okay, we know that one. NBA on TNT. I feel I don't watch enough NBA, but I feel like I know that.
Probably would know that if I heard it.
Probably would. Number 12, I think this is underrated. I'm not a hockey fan, but NHL on ESPN, I know right away.
Yep.
They brought that thing back too, but that was great. Number 11. All my rowdy friends from Monday Night Football.
Okay, sure.
Definitely. Number 10, One Shining Moment.
Very controversial.
Very controversial, sadly. Number 9, I remember this being a little bit older, Wide World of Sports. I definitely remember that one. The Agony of Defeat, the guy falling off the ski jump. The Masters, the piano, the Jim Nance voice over it, for sure. Easy one. 7, NFL on Fox. I know this one for sure. Here's the weird thing about the NFL on Fox song. Every time, see, I just hummed it, and I think I missed it. It always turns into Sleigh Ride, the Christmas song.
Oh.
But you know what I'm doing?
If you're just,
we're riding in a wonder. Every time I hear that song, I get into Sleigh Ride. Number 6, 90s Sports Center, which they did the same variation on forever. Right? Mm-hmm. They even did that. CBS college football, and it's been used for SEC on CBS. And now they've expanded that. Hold on, I got to get my head. In fact, my buddy and me, when I was about 17, 18 years old, after the national championship game, we put words to this song that went as follows. This is the song that reminds me of kicking Florida's ass. Let's see. Number 4, the Olympic theme. Of course.
Sure.
Right. You got to do that. The classic Monday Night Football with the strings. Bum, 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 bum. Bum, 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 ba-na-na-na-na, da-na-na, da-na. And then they had the real 70s disco-y version of it too. That would kind of they changed and they adjusted over the course of the years. But that song is called Heavy Action.
Oh,
if you wanna look it up. Number 2, the March Madness theme on CBS. No, that's Roundball Rock.
Yeah.
That's Roundball Rock. That's number 1. What's the March Madness? Why can't I think of the March Madness theme? I think that's overrated at number 2 because it's not just popping in my head right off this thing. Yes. And this is what Awful Announcing said about that one. When March Madness is all about upsets, it's fitting the biggest upset of the list of our top 25 sports themes comes with CBS's NCAA tournament theme all the way up in the number 2 slot.
Yeah.
Yes. I think I started singing that and I morphed it into Round Ball Rock when I did that. And Round Ball Rock, number 1 by John Tesh, is number 1, the top overall sports theme song of all time. And it's driving the vast majority, to the extent that there is excitement about the NBA coming back to NBC. I mean, you really couldn't say that. You said it a little bit about when hockey came to ESPN, bringing that song back, but like any excitement there is about this is all about that song, including me, because there was something that inextricably, there are only a few of these that you hear and it takes you back right to a very specific feeling of that
CBS
sport.
college football,
Yes.
Monday Night Football.
Yes.
I picture the 90s one with the helmets colliding and the
Yes.
lightning
Yep.
and all
Yep.
that.
I would say those two are the, yes.
NFL on Fox, I knew was going to be on there. Having gone through the list, I do still feel like Waiting All Day for Sunday Night is a little low. I don't think it's the best song in the world, but when you
but it's got such good associations. It is so directly associated with it. Which, by the way, you know what they didn't put on here? Come in to your city.
Yeah, I do associate that with college football now.
Or the college game day theme.
Yeah.
Let's see. Can we think of that in our head? Man, now I've got all these songs floating around in my head. Oh God, I've got it in my head, but I can't translate it to my voice. Oh, it's driving me insane. That's a really hard, weird thing to do. But yes, no ESPN college football on any of the, other than the ABC theme, which maybe they used over for college football back in the day. So there you go. You can take a look. You can listen to them all at awfulannouncing.com. You can look up the top 25 sports themes of all time, including some old school ones that I didn't even like This Week in Baseball with Mel Allen. That was on the list as well. I don't know what the hockey night in Canada.
Got that one over here.
Oh, do we have that one? Okay, yes. How about that? I remember watching that back in the day. So there you go. There is your top 25 list of sport themes. All right. Take a break right now. We're going to come back. We got what's on TV tonight. What are we watching tonight? Some final thoughts here before we get into the crossover with the afternoon show, and then I think I come back as a guest here shortly after that, I guess.
Perfect.
We'll see.
We're just going to churn you and spit you right out.
We'll grab breaks. Connor Happer Show. Jack Mitchell in for Connor. Stick around. You listen to 1620 The Zone. right, welcome back. Connor Happer Show. I'm Jack Mitchell in for Connor. I had to go back and listen to some of those songs. It was driving me nuts.
Which ones did you go?
I had to get back and to listen. I did listen to that ESPN, that NBA on ESPN one.
Okay,
it's forgettable. That one should not have been. If you don't have the college game day theme in there, or even dare I say it, coming to your city. Now, does Fox College now I'm back thinking about does Fox College football have a different theme? I think they do. Than the NFL, than the sleigh ride one from the NFL. By the way, you're never going to be able to not hear that sleigh ride thing again with the Fox NFL one.
All I have in my head right now is the sad injury.
Oh yeah,
version for whatever reason.
All right, are we doing? What are we watching on TV tonight? What's on? What's on tonight? Am I saying the name of the segment wrong? I think I am.
What to watch tonight?
What to watch tonight? Yes. What should we watch?
Well, we got baseball on your television here in a couple of hours. MLB Network. A weird 4:00 start for the St. Louis Cardinals as they host the New York Mets. 5:40.
Weird time.
It is. ESPN Plus. The Marlins host the Reds.
Ooh,
real sicko if you're watching that.
Throw out the records when they get together.
And then top two teams in the NL square off on MLB Network tonight. 9:00 at Chavez Ravine. The Dodgers host the all of a sudden struggling Philadelphia Phillies.
I don't have MLB Network because I have YouTube TV, but I did hear you can now get it if you have MLB.TV.
Yeah,
which I have not figured out exactly how you do that yet, but I did hear that.
Great.
So.
And it's not on TV tonight, but the White Sox are in Oakland tonight.
Oh,
they have lost. The White Sox have lost 20 in a row, the 7th longest streak in the history of the sport. A loss would tie them for 6th all time with the 1988 Baltimore Orioles.
How many? What's the record?
The 26.
Okay,
I believe.
Okay.
I had it in front of me. I don't have it in front. There's a whole wiki devoted to it.
That's are they going to get to the point? Let's see. Longest single season losing streak was 26 by the 1889 Louisville Colonels.
Yes.
Okay, that's not even in the modern era,
right? I believe it is the 3rd longest in the modern era.
Are we going to get to a point where we're breaking into games at the end of the game to see if this keeps going? Right. Like Aaron Judge Homer watch, White Sox loss watch.
Will they be breaking into an NFL preseason game to tell you the White Sox have lost?
We're going to bring the last 3 outs here between the White Sox and the Rays.
History could be made.
Oh, that's good. That's good.
And then Olympics on your television, men's volleyball quarterfinals going on right now on USA as Team USA takes on Brazil. Men's beach volleyball. Round of 16. USA goes up against Italy at 5:00 on USA. And then at 6:00 on USA, a replay of today's earlier beach volleyball match, the women's Team USA against Canada. You can watch. You can watch Creighton's Taryn Cloth try and advance to the next round. Primetime in Paris tonight, 6:00 on NBC. They will show you the women's balance beam finals in gymnastics, the floor exercise finals, heats for the men's 200 meters, and the finals for the women's 800 meters. Very controversial sport, Little League baseball.
Yeah.
Are you in or out?
Out on it being. I liked it when I was a kid when they had the championship game on.
Okay.
Which was cool. I thought that was really cool when I was a kid. The entire thing is a little much for me.
It is a bit much. All day today, there are regionals on ESPN. Nebraska's representative from South Sioux City went 0-2.
Oh.
So they're out of it. Davenport, Iowa takes on Wisconsin in about an hour on ESPN Plus. And finally, Top Gun is on Paramount at 7:00 tonight. U.S. Marshals is on same time, AMC. So take your pick.
Okay. That's good. I appreciate it. There are always those movies that you would never watch on streaming. Like you would scroll through on Netflix. There's no way like, I'm not going and watching The Fugitive right now. But 100% if I saw it was on TV, I would watch one of those versions of it that's got 15-minute commercial breaks during the whole thing, and I would watch it.
Absolutely.
So, all right.
That's what to watch.
So that's what we've got on TV today. All right. There we go. Well, I think that is that wraps us up here. We're going to bring Josh and John here for the crossover for just a second. Thanks, everybody, for hanging out, treating me okay as a substitute teacher today. Appreciate that. Thank you for all your help, Josh. I had fun doing this. I will be back here again this Thursday, then next Monday, a week from today. And then I believe the Wednesday after that is the schedule that I've chosen.
Before we get out of here, I do want to say John Schreiner's going to host tomorrow sometime between 11:15 and 11:30. We don't have an exact time yet. Cam Taylor-Britt's going to be on the show.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Nice get.
Yeah, very excited.
I mean,
for
not that Mike and Sam weren't great gets, but who do I get on Thursday? Do we have any idea?
Thursday, you'll have Jacob Padilla and Michael Bruntz.
Yes.
And anyone else you'd like me to go?
That sounds good. It's exciting to find out. It's like opening a little bit of a grab bag here. I get to see who I get to interview coming up when we've got the show on Thursday. So yes, thanks a bunch to Josh. Thanks to everybody for hanging out with us today, and I'll be back here in a little bit. All right, we'll grab a break. We got the crossover coming up next. You're listening to 1620 The Zone.